have no idea what's happening.
I'm watching the YouTube right now.
I think we are live right now. Huzzah.
Excellent. Hi.
Awesome. Okay. So hello, friends. Welcome back to, I think I may have cut that on a bit early. Anyway, I don't know when that started. Anyway, okay. So hello. Hi. Welcome to yet another panel in this magical COVID land.
I have no idea what's happening.
As you
I'm watching the YouTube right now.
Caught on by now that I think we are live right now. Oh, wait, Huzzah. That's me. Oh my God. I had like 10,000 windows open and one of them was live. Okay. Now I'm mildly confused, but we're okay. So anyway, if you have not figured out by now, this is part of the COVID weekend, which is sort of the costume community's answer to Costume College, which none of us are able to attend this weekend this year. So we are putting on a bunch of educational content. This live stream happens to be about, this is part one of a two-part workshop because it's such a massive topic. Obviously, if you're here and you read the title, we are discussing how to YouTube, which seems kind of unrelated to the world of costuming, but we, as all of us are costumers, we are discussing this specifically within the context of being a creative person on YouTube, specifically within the costuming niche. So less like lifestyle content, obviously, it's a whole different can of worms that we're specifically talking about having a specific craft that you expose online. So that is what we are up to today. We are not here to sort of have a nice casual, like personal chat. We will sort of be a little bit keeping up with the chat, trying to at least, but we're going to save questions specifically for the end. So if you have questions, I would ask that you hold them until the end, just so that we don't have to try and grab them and hold them and remember them whilst we're trying to actually discuss what we plan to discuss. I will also note that we do have the super chat feature turned on for this. I will note that the super chats are very, very kind, are very much appreciated. However, we are treating them specifically as donations. So we are not prioritizing the messages sent with the super chats solely because we want the questions that we do take to be as relevant to the content as possible. And we'll only be able to take a couple of questions. So we don't want to be prioritizing questions that aren't necessarily relevant to what we're discussing today. So what we are discussing today specifically is the technical side of YouTube. Tomorrow is going to be the less concrete, how to market your videos, how to tell a story, how to write a good script. But this is more concrete. What kind of camera do you use? What kind of angles do you shoot things at? How do you make a good video? I should also note that we are doing our best to caption these live streams. There have been tons of tests and trials and troubleshoots and research and hours of trying to figure this out that went into all of this to try and get the captions live. It is not possible streaming through Zoom to YouTube so far with the technology that is available to us today, unfortunately. I have a freelance transcriptionist working behind the scenes, captioning this live stream as we speak, so that as soon as YouTube opens up the back end of these streams, when the stream comes down, we will be able to get captions on as soon as possible. I apologize, we can't get them on earlier. It really sucks, but you know what? Technology has not exactly caught up with accessibility at this point, and that's really disappointing. But anyway, that being said, Noelle of Costuming Drama is our fabulous moderator today. I have done way too much preamble housekeeping. So Noelle will be taking over the moderation, and I will be rambling probably non-coherently in addition from there. Go for it.
Thanks, B. Okay, so hi, I'm Noelle from Costuming Drama. We're here with you today to talk to you about the tech side of YouTube. We're going to be discussing equipment like cameras and lighting, as well as software, background, stuff like that. I hope that you're going to enjoy learning what we use and hearing why we use it. And if you have questions, like she said, leave them in the chat. If you can wait till towards the end, I will be watching the chat to some extent, but it'll be easier to take questions that are more towards that. And I will prompt you for, hey, we're going to take questions soon, so go ahead and start putting them in there. That would be very helpful of you. All right, so everybody, why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Everybody knows Bernadette, I assume, because you're here on Bernadette's channel. Bernadette, why don't you talk a little bit about just vaguely what kind of videos you do?
I I guess well, okay, so my style is a bit more like cinematic storytelling-y. I'm just going off of like what I think we're going to talk about in the future.
Yeah.
They're like small films.
It's helpful to know for what kind of camera you use, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I like
Morgan,
making pretty little movies.
yeah, Bernadette makes movies. Morgan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what kind of movies you make, YouTube you make?
So I'm Morgan Donner. My YouTube videos are on the tutorial end of things, not exclusively, but that's definitely kind of the style I favor, because I
The
want
flavor you favor?
whenever I make something, I'm always thinking like, ooh, if I were to do this differently, this is the information I would want to know. So that's kind of how I flavor my videos.
Yeah. Abby?
I'm like, oh God, what do I do? I don't know what I do about this. So hi everyone, I'm Abby, and I'm actually the newest YouTuber in this panel. So I have the distinct privilege of still exploring what kind of really like hone down what kind of content I'm creating on my channel. I do a lot of antique clothing unboxing because I am a collector, and so I am also actually like I have a master's degree in decorative arts and design history, so I'm a dress historian by trade. I also collect, so I'm doing a bit of unboxing videos, antique clothing exploration videos. I also do sewing videos, and I like to embarrass myself on YouTube when it comes to the content I create as well.
And I'm Noelle, like I said, and I do sewing vlogs. So I am making my costumes and I stand in my craft room, which you are currently in, and I vlog that experience. So you see all of the parts of how a garment goes together. I'm not here to instruct you on how that's done specifically, although I do talk about that stuff and I give you tips and tricks. But I also show you all the bad stuff that happens to me, right? So you see me sitting there going, guys, this sucks. So that's basically what happens in my vlogs. And I'm more your buddy, your sewing partner in your sewing space. All right, let's talk a little bit about like vaguely what you need to make a YouTube video. Does anybody want to chime in on that? No? All right, so
we're being all very polite.
Yeah, stop being polite.
We all have the outline like right in front of us, so
yeah, you know what's coming up next, guys. So you need a camera, right? You need a background, maybe some audio. You need to have a vague concept of what you're gonna do, right? Yeah. If you're Abby, you don't need that. You can just go.
What do I do?
Like a vague concept of what your channel's about.
Well, I mean, I have a vague concept. It's just like I've only been doing this since March, and I've been now like, well, this is like part 2, but full time since May. So like having that time to grow your channel, like all of you all have had, I haven't had that, but we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess since we're all being like very polite with each other and be like, who would like to go first? Definitely like the concept and the idea, having the tech. I know Bernadette and I talk about this a lot, and because you'll see a lot of people big in YouTube and they're like, you don't need nice equipment. Like, you just need the passion. But it's like, no, but having like a decent camera helps. Like,
it does.
You know, and having
you also need like software.
Yeah, like, I mean, you have to have something. Like, I mean, I filmed my very, 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 very first YouTube video that will never see the light of day on my iPhone 10X, like XS. And it was fine because I had decent lighting, but like starting there, but then going from there. So I guess like we're all trying to say, we'll get to the point of we go beyond the iPhone. Like we go this is going beyond the cell phone.
So I'm just trying to get to like what vaguely you need. You can do it with an iPhone. You can do it entirely on an iPhone. You can film it and edit it and upload it from your iPhone. But we're going to talk to you about all the equipment that we have. And that equipment is going to include our cameras, our lighting, and all that stuff.
So I think the kind of thesis of this live stream is going to be like, we're not going to lie to you. the tech really, really, really helps in making
It
your
matters.
videos good and kind of like palatable, watchable.
Yeah.
But we're also, that should not be an excuse. Not having the tech should not be an excuse not to start, because the absolute most important thing in getting on YouTube in the beginning, like at square one, is you just have to start, because all of this stuff that we're about to show you, all of these pretty little complicated black toys, they're no good unless you know how to use them. And the only way to learn how to use them is to actually physically use them. So if you're not even starting, you're just procrastinating until you have enough money to buy something like this when you don't know what an aperture or an f-stop is, like, it's going to be useless. You might as well start with what you have in your hands, get to know terminology, get to know how brightness and contrast and saturation, how lighting works, before you put the money into buying the really fancy equipment, because this stuff is only as good as your knowledge of how to use it.
Also, you don't need all of it. Every single piece in and of itself helps your videos, right? And so adding one piece helps, right? Going from an iPhone to a regular camera will help. Adding a mic will help. Adding lighting will help. Adding a tripod will help. So all of these things, what?
Well, as we'll also kind of get into, is cameras are expensive, but they're not the most important thing.
No, although my phone was 3 times as expensive as my camera.
Well, that's actually a valid point, because I have an iPhone 5. People say film on your iPhone, but I have the iPhone 5, and like, it still works. I'm not upgrading anytime soon, because like, this piece of ancient junk, actually it works. I'm not upgrading. It would be more expensive for me to just upgrade my phone now than to buy a camera that's purpose for my videos. So anyway.
All right, let's talk about backdrops and setups. Like, what is your background? How do you choose that? What is your setup? Bernadette, you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. Well, now at this point, I have like a proper sewing room, which if you've kept up with my channel, you will know that it has not always been that way. I used to film in an empty room that was my house. What I have actually done is, because this is now my full-time job, my making videos, when I was setting up my sewing room, I did it with set in mind. So I chose colors. I chose sort of dark, rich woods that I knew would reflect warm light into my footage, because previously I had an issue where all my footage was really cold, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my personal aesthetic style. I had a big green couch in here. I have green buildings outside of my window, so I was getting a lot of green light, and I didn't really like that in my shots. So I deliberately chose red, warm tinted woods for my cutting table, for example, so that all my footage skews it, you know, the white balance on the camera, if you have auto white balance on, it sort of takes that into account and skews the footage warm, which I really like. Now I'm really fond of all of my footage. But the most important thing when you're choosing your space is, well, there are 2 things, I think. One is light. So you do have to think about your light source. If you're lucky enough to be in a room with a window, I'm very fortunate to be in a room with a lot of windows. So I don't actually use any artificial lighting. I just try and schedule my filming times around the good parts of the day where I can get the most natural light. Film in front of a window if you absolutely can, both for your face, you know, have flat front lighting on your face, that really helps, but also if you're filming down and working. I would avoid filming with artificial overhead lights that skew really yellow, because there's nothing, well, I'm sure the other ladies will go into that and have some thoughts, but you often see in some of the videos that you watch that just are less visually appealing, the lighting just skews very green and sort of yellow and sickly. I want to say, if you have any training in art, in painting, in fine arts, if you've ever taken like a drawing class or whatever, and you've studied color, you do look at the world in a different way. You do see color in a different way. Really try and pay attention to that, and really try and hone that skill. Try and notice the very, very subtle color differences in picture. So like right now, Noelle, your shot's very magenta. Morgan, your shot's
because my background.
Yeah, my shot's actually very cold right now, because I haven't got any of my warm woods in frame right now. But
Morgan's very green.
Yeah. Pay attention to your light quality and color, and also your depth of field. your shot will look so much better if you can be in a room with space behind you, which I realize is a luxury.
Yep.
Living in a Manhattan apartment, I realize that is a luxury. And so I do try and shoot at angles that give me enough. I don't arguably have enough depth of field in my vicinity to get those beautiful, like, we can talk about like camera settings to get those beautiful blue backgrounds. Apertures, yep, which I don't have quite enough of in the space that I'm in right now. But you know, if I were looking for a space to film, if I were like in a house and deciding like, where am I going to film? I would look for a room that has a lot of depth, because then whatever's in front, like if you are on camera, you're really crisp and the background's really out of focus, which really draws the focus to you. So that's my
Morgan, why don't you tell us about your background setup and why you chose it?
Sure. So my background is, for the most part, just white furniture, white walls, white everything, in part because of the effort to bounce off light. This is my gaming laptop, which is not doing a very good job of representing what this would normally look like on camera, because I also prefer the tone to be warm. I have a huge window right next to me, which normally does a beautiful job of lighting, but that's why equipment does matter. But I've mostly gone all white for the very clean, completely non-distracting. I've even experimented with adding up like big curtains of like red, because I enjoy red, and it's too much. I like my plain, simple, all white look with specks of color. Like that's my fun.
Abby?
Yeah, so my sewing room, I actually painted it and laid it out with the idea of filming in here in mind. So like, this is obviously the wall that I filmed the most in front of, and I picked this color because it's dark and it's a good kind of neutral blue gray, because I have a tendency, I think, to kind of gear more towards cooler shots than Bernadette does, and like that's me. So, but I wanted something that I knew the camera could kind of handle, but I also wanted something that if it did reflect light, it wouldn't reflect a color too strongly. And if it was going to reflect a color, it'd be closer to a natural light color. So this is, I'm a huge fan of Claire paint. So this is Irony from Claire paint. And I definitely like designed this wall with the idea of it being shot in front of. And so that's why it kind of needs to, like, it can go over like a scotch that way, because that's where my door opens up to. So I didn't hang anything over there, but when I edit now, I'm like, oh, there's so much dead space right there. So I need to actually put like a piece of art behind the door. So when the door is shut, it kind of continues off to the side. And then I even though my whole house is brand new, like suburban home, and everything was painted in like a flat white, I actually came in here and repainted my walls a different color white, because I wanted it to have a crispier, brighter white color, because I have a window directly in front of me over here, and then I have a side light, and this window is west facing and that window is northwest facing. And so I wanted to be able to reflect as much light in here as possible, because not only am I filming in here, but I'm sewing in here, and I prefer to sew by natural light because that's best for your eyes usually. But I also
all white is not created equal.
Yeah, like, and yeah. And so I really literally repainted my walls white. My mom was like, what are you doing to me? I'm like, I have a purpose. There's a plan. But I actually have 2 soft boxes in here as well, because even with all of that in mind, I never feel like my shots in here are quite as bright as I prefer them to be. So I actually have both of my soft boxes on and my windows open right now. So I have a soft box that's like right there with the window.
You're killing the lighting section, Abby.
Sorry. But like
you're killing the lighting
the design like thing. And then I have like one over there, but I'll talk about that later. So yeah, but I actually designed this whole space with the idea of shooting in mine and filming in mine, and my downstairs as well. And the same thing with Bernadette. I try really hard to find different angles where I can get that separation. So that way you can see interesting things in the background, but it doesn't completely pull your eye.
Yeah. So this is going to be a running theme. I am the one in this group that is going to talk to you the most about reality. So I rolled into my house 6 years ago, and this room was painted like this with these stripes, and I was like, badass. And the other wall that I'm facing right now and that wall are both chartreuse. Like, they are limey green and the color of these stripes that are right here. And I left it because I was like, cool, I'm leaving it. And then I parked all kinds of stuff everywhere. And then 5 years later, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a YouTube channel and screw it. I'm just going to leave it. So I did. There's lights overhead. There's can lights. There are 6 of them above me. So they do give me a pretty good light. Like, as you can see, I don't have I do have shadow, but I don't have a crazy amount of shadow. I do have a giant window, which I do leave open when I'm filming during the day, but I also film at night. And that's what color correction is for, friends. So, yeah, and my stuff is all IKEA. So as you can see, it's all white furniture and whatever. And I made sure that my ceiling is an optic white. I did repaint that to bounce the light back and forth a little bit more. But my sewing room was designed way before YouTube, and it was designed for sewing, as it turns out. So this room is ideal for me to sew in. It is not necessarily ideal for me to film in, but it is what I have, and it's the reality of it. And part of my channel and part of my shtick is you're going to see the reality of sewing. So this is it. So that is how I designed my room.
I would point out that your sewing, like your set, is still good because
yeah.
everything that you see in the set is relevant to the content of the video.
Yeah.
One risk that you have of filming in your house is that you may have background distractions that are not related to the content and thus pull the viewer's mind out of, not to say that you all are sewers, but you know, whatever videos you're making, the background should kind of make sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're filming a video about, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're talking about like, you're doing a film review and in the background is like a blanket thrown over the edge, the side of the sofa. And, you know, maybe there's like a pile of like a stray glass on the counter in the background.
I'm feeling really called out right now, Bernadette.
Well, you may note that I even have a tiny Bernadette in my video.
Oh my God.
Right? There is comic book art, but I do cosplay. So that's part of it, right? And I wanted to make sure there was interesting things in the background because a lot of times people are just listening to me yammering on about whatever and they're sewing. But if there's stuff for them to look at, that's also good.
Right. Well, it's just like the thought of being deliberate about your background space. Like, why is that glass of water there? Is that doing anything for your shot? No, I'm going to move it. Is that comic book picture thing doing anything interesting for your shot? Yes. It's providing character to you.
Yeah.
You know, it says a little bit about who you are. Do you want a stray glass of water to say anything about who you are? Maybe you do. Maybe that's a plot point within your video, in which case leave it. But, you know, just put a little bit of deliberate intention to what's behind you when you're filming.
I will make a small note when you're designing your set, watch out for things like this and this and this, because these are faces and your camera is designed to focus on faces. So when you see my shots going in and out of focus, it's because they're like, hey, look, her. So yeah, I would avoid putting giant faces on your wall if you're going to film in front of it. That's a definite pro tip that I did not obey. So I just deal with it.
That's like, wow. Like my mind just went
mind blown. All right, you guys want to talk about lighting a little bit? Morgan, why don't you go first?
Sure. I'm going to continue to be the bad example. I feel so bad that my lighting looks terrible right now.
Your lighting is always like flawless.
It really is, Morgan.
But like, so my setup works. I'm just going to blame this all on the camera. I like to have, I've done a bit, like, for example, my window over here, it's a nice, bright, also west-facing window. I actually put stickers over it, like a plain frosted sticker, so I didn't actually have to replace my window with a frosted.
It's a privacy screen sticker.
Yeah, and it's fantastic because it disperses the light much like any sort of like softbox. And I've noticed, like, I kind of forgot that is even making such a big difference because I opened my window. It's been hot lately in the summer, and the amount of like strong direct light onto my sewing table, which is what you're sitting on right now, completely crazy, right? So yeah, if you can soften whatever your light is, whether that's overhead, whether it's, you know, lamps and things or windows, softening it, dispersing it, so good. But I do also have some umbrella lights here on the side for when the window isn't quite doing what I want it to do.
Abby?
Well, I kind of, went through mine. So I use in my sewing room 2 soft boxes just like I said, because even though I have two windows and one's west facing and one's northwest facing, I just never feel like it's as strong as what I would like. And also it kind of helps maintain light if I go sewing into the dark and it becomes evening. I live in northern Nevada and Washoe County. For people who are not familiar, like this place has crazy light, like crazy beautiful light, but sometimes it can get wacky. Like it can throw really interesting colors and shadows into places. So when I'm in here, I try to keep my lighting as like stable as possible. When I'm filming downstairs, I actually have a huge wall of windows that they are southeast facing. So it's usually very soft diffuse light after 10 a.m. And when I'm filming down there, I just park myself in front of a window and go to town. Like I don't worry about it because the light is just really great. So that's how I operate. And with my lights too, I actually keep them pretty high. Like you can see where the one is right there. And that one is just shooting straight across behind me right now as a way to kind of just illuminate, like ideally back in here somewhere, do a little bit of like the halo, like I believe rim light is the technical term. And then the other one here is at a like 3/4 angle onto my face. I also have linen curtains for my windows. So unlike this, like similar to the sticker, I have sheer linen curtains that I can pull, and then that will also diffuse the light as well. So that way it's very soft. And so that's what I like to do.
B, lighting?
Again, I just like the windows. I will say in terms of artificial light, because I'm sort of watching chat go by and people are saying, but what if I'm in a room with absolutely no windows? That's a thing that happens and it's not fun. In that case, I would either look into getting artificial light sources in a color that contradicts what you've got going on overhead. So if you've got really like warm light going on, get a cooler light to kind of cancel that out. There are settings on your camera. So we'll get into cameras more in a bit. But for example, on this camera that I use, the Canon G7X, actually, I think on all of the cameras that I use, there is an auto function setting where instead of just using the auto white balance, I mean, you can do this manually too, but I'm just assuming that you kind of have no idea what you're doing in terms of messing around with color temperature. Oftentimes cameras will have settings to say, this is being filmed in direct sunlight, so it's going to cool down the shot a lot because it knows that sunlight is really warm. It has a separate setting for if you're in the shade or if it's a cloudy day, in which case it will warm up your shots because it knows that that quality of light's really cool. I actually keep my camera setting on shade mode like perpetually because I like that like subtle warming quality. And like I'm not in direct sunlight, I'm kind of in the shade of natural light, which makes sense. But there are also separate settings for tungsten versus fluorescent lights.
Yeah.
We've got tungsten, I think, is the magenta one and fluorescence the one, but it's the different quality of light. So it will just add a bit more green or magenta to the light quality and cancel out. If you're under a fluorescent light, it will cancel out a little bit of that sickly greenness to your shot, which will be really, really useful. So
the one thing I did do was when I bought my house and I had these can lights installed, I bought them at a color temperature that would be good for both sewing and filming should I want to do it, because I did have a makeup channel and at the time I thought it was possible I could film in here. So, and every room in my house, including my hallway, has a different color tone of light in the can, because when you buy lights, you can get that. But when you buy LEDs specifically, you can get different color tones. So these ones are slightly warmer than the ones in the hall, which are slightly cooler tone, but these are significantly cooler tone than the ones in my bedroom, because in my bedroom, I want to have a nice, warm, like cuddly feeling. And in this one, I want to be able to see the white thread on the white thing that I am sewing. Additionally, you can buy, and I have giant LED panel lights that you can use, and those are not only dimmable, but you can adjust the color temperature of them. So you can change them depending on what the quality of the light is. So say you buy the light, and then later you also update something in your room to, like, you paint the wall or you put up a curtain or whatever, and it changes the color, you just adjust the light. Additionally, you can do all of this in the software.
Yeah. I think another thing to point out, because I don't see any of the questions, but just going off of like the comment about not having light, you can actually buy, I know when we say things like umbrella light and softbox, it sounds super expensive and scary. but they're not. Like I bought
Super
my
cheap.
soft boxes for like, I think they're listed now for a set of two, and that includes the bulbs, like $67. So if
You
you
can
split
get them
that
for
into
40.
two, yeah, and you can get cheaper ones. Like I think I bought these at the time because they were on special and they were on sale. So we're not talking about buying like the, like B&H Photo, like $300 soft boxes. It's like, no, 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 no. You can buy the cheapies. They work just fine. Like, like you don't, like, they're not actually that expensive of an investment. And depending on what your channel is about, like the reason we're also focused on lighting is not just for beautiful shots, but we are doing things that require clear visuals for you as the viewer. If you go into tech channels, they're all about that RGB in the background. They're all about really dark background with some mood RGB light and then like one softbox on the face.
Yeah.
And we all know what we're talking about. Yeah. So there's different aesthetics when it comes to lighting too. It's just, what are you filming? Like even if you're not sewing and you're thinking about starting a makeup channel or a tech channel or a gardening channel, like thinking about your lighting in that way, you've got to think about how it works within your niche on YouTube as well. And what other people in your niche are doing. Like, so.
All right, let's move on to the thing everybody's here for. Let's talk about our cameras.
Oh, I thought that was going to be Bernadette taking her sweater off.
Oh.
So hot. Can I?
All right. I'm going to go first because I'm going to talk about a camera everybody else has. I have a G7X. First of all, I also shoot with my iPhone. So I shoot not very often with it, but especially if I'm out and about or if I need a fast motion shot, I will shoot with my iPhone because it actually gets a better shot frequently than this one does. This has way better sound. The iPhone actually has better speed shots in some ways. This has slow motion though. So this is a G7X Mark III. And the reason we use it is because we can see ourselves, right? So when you see me flick my eyes up, it's me looking at myself in the camera. The thing that I will tell you about this camera that I have that I don't think anyone else has is I have put on the front of it this little device that lets me put filters on it. And I've done this for several reasons. This is a UV filter on it. One, this, especially for me, because I travel with my camera and I do travel, like I do costume travel vlogs basically sometimes. This goes in my backpack and the lens part will frequently get messed up. Your little shutter thing won't close after a while and it'll get stuff in there. This thing protects it from all of that kind of stuff. Also, if you open it and it like bunks into something, it helps protect the lens a lot. So I don't do it necessarily for the filter, but I do it for the protection of the camera. Also, if your camera falls over on the tripod boosh, and hits the lens, it's gonna help make sure that it doesn't die the first time out. This kit is super cheap. You can get it on Amazon and then you just buy any kind of filter you want. It does also let you put filters on it. So if I'm at Disneyland all day, I might throw a neutral density filter on there because it's real bright, right? You can do neutral density inside this camera. By the way,
it's like sunglasses for the camera, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
Like darkens.
It takes it down a notch. There is a neutral density filter inside this camera as well, but there's only one step to it, whereas a neutral density filter will allow you to have as many steps as you want on it. There is a Sony version of this. I think you have that, Bernadette, yeah? And it has your side opens, right?
Yes, which I don't like as much because this is actually a lot more obvious.
It is really obvious when you look sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. So whereas you shouldn't obviously be looking at yourself in the viewfinder when you're filming, you do have to check in every couple of seconds just to make sure you're in focus, especially if you've got an autofocus, because there's nothing worse than watching a video that's out of focus when someone's talking. So you have to make sure that you're in focus, that the lighting hasn't like mysteriously overexposed everything. Just check in to make sure your settings are okay. It's much more obvious if you have to keep sliding your eyes off to the side. Whereas if you just like look a skosh up every so often. So that's kind of why I actually have both. I have the G7X Mark II, which is a step down from what Noelle has.
This one does slow motion and has the neutral density filter, and that one doesn't. That one's way cheaper.
This one also does slow motion and also does high f-stop, but we'll get into that later.
And you'll notice these fuzzy things on here. So I'm just gonna go into that. It's a peripheral, but I'll just talk about it. This is a wind filter. So, and it absorbs extra noise. If you see us putting these on our cameras, that's what that's doing. I'm outside a lot, so I need that.
It takes away that like
Crackle. Yeah.
I don't know how that sounded on, but you take away that like stupid, annoying, like horrible wind noise.
Yeah. All right, Abby, you want to talk about your cameras?
Yeah. So I don't have my Sony ZV-1 because I got Mercury retrograded and I was sent the dud. Which it's coming back to me. Like I got my shipping notification from B&H, like it's coming back. So I'm really sad I can't talk about the tripod that goes with it because I did get that and Bernadette didn't. But I actually have the YouTube standard Canon EOS M50. I also have a prime lens for mine, so I use the 22mm lens. I also have an ND filter. I was like, oh, I should grab my ND filter because those are great, especially when you want to have like that beautiful like aperture, like, you know, 1.8 or 2, and then it's actually too bright, and then you look at your footage and everything's completely blown out and you're like, son of a bitch. But this is what I use. This is my main camera. I think, well, Bernadette, you have this. Almost every YouTuber has this camera.
I don't have that.
Yeah. It's actually pretty inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. I think they're like $500-$600, and it's a mirrorless camera and something. Morgan, you use a normal DSLR, don't you? You don't have a mirrorless, do you?
Is it G7X too? Yeah.
I have 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have the same one as Noelle.
But your beefy baby is a normal DSLR. It's not a mirrorless, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It is not.
okay, so like using mirrorless cameras, one of the reasons why mirrorless cameras are really popular for filming is because they don't have a shutter. And so they're usually better for video. They're not it's not like you have to have a mirrorless, because obviously like Morgan has beautiful shots and she does beautiful work. It's not a thing. But mirrorless, it's rising up within the tech community and like camera community, especially for YouTube because of its shutterless capability. So
shutters make noise.
Yeah, and shutters make noise, things like that. So this is a very inexpensive mirrorless camera. You can have changeable lenses, which is a really nice thing. Canon is really going hard for the mirrorless systems as well. So there's finally more than just the 22mm lens that's coming out as well. And other lens manufacturers are producing lenses that go with these cameras now, like Sigma and Tamron as also. So I shoot with that and the 22mm. Mostly because the 22mm goes down to or up to a 2 aperture, f-stop 2, so I can get that nice separation. Where kit lenses, they're fine. The kit lens that comes with the Canon M50 is fine, but it only can do a 3.5 at certain like focal lengths. So if I want that good like dreamy, gooey like bokeh separation, I can't get that with the kit lens. I have to use the prime lens. And for those of you who aren't familiar, prime lens, it has 1 focal length, and I have to physically move my camera to get the shot that I want. I can't like just twist it around. It just does. I have to physically move the camera. Yeah. So that's what I use. And that's she's like, bonk.
Yeah, I'm like, this is as big as it gets.
Yeah. And I'll let Bernadette wax poetic about the Sony ZV-1 because
so folks, the reason I use the G7X is because I vlog and I have to hold my camera all the time, right? I don't put it on a tripod very often. I am literally talking to it while I hold it and turning and moving my camera all the time. So I highly advise you to pick your camera based on its weight and what you're doing with it. Because also if you buy a beefy camera thinking you're getting the most like bomb thing ever, and you realize like your tripod can't even hold it up with that giant lens you bought.
You don't know how to use it.
It's real expensive. Yeah, and you never use it. It's just a giant waste of money. So consider what you're going to do, right? If you also want to use your camera as your vacation camera, don't buy that crazy thing that Morgan has with that giant Rode mic on top. Buy a G7X, right? If you're going to make cinematic
price.
What was that?
They're kind of the same price too.
Yeah, this thing, by the way, is $700. This is not a cheap camera. This is the top end mirrorless camera that Canon has. So if you're going to use it for other things besides filming, make sure you take that into account. And if you're going to film tiny movies or tutorials, buy these giant cameras, right? Because you're going to put them on a tripod with a mount all the time, and that's fine.
Well, and even then, I think there's I'm not going to say there is one now because I don't think there is now, but I feel like for a while there was a prejudice against point and shoot cameras and like small, like the G7X and everything. But now with the technology that's coming out, there's like the G7X Mark III, the Sony ZV-1, they're amazing cameras. Like they are fantastic cameras. There's no like, and it's all in one. Like it's just right there. It's just like here's a pretty package.
This guy also has a port for a mic, so I can attach a Rode mic to it if I want to. So
and that's
really.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, Noelle. Oh,
it really does everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that with all of our cameras, I think for those of you all listening, is something that I'm glad you brought that up. It's very important to have good sound. We are going to talk about audio, but the one thing when it comes to buying a camera, whether it's a point and shoot or like a DSLR type of camera, you've got to have that external mic port.
Yeah.
Got
like
to
the
be able to
Sony
plug in
that
external sound.
The Sony that Bernadette has, I've heard a bunch of vloggers having it recently. I've listened to their videos. I hate the sound on it. I can't stand
it. In the internal camera is really bad, but it does.
And if you just use that and you don't do a lot of audio fixing, it's not the one, right? If you have a mic and you do audio fixing and you're like Bernadette and you can do some wizardry in your editing, then great. It does have a slightly better picture though. I will give it that. Like I think the picture is smoother. Morgan, do you want to talk about your cameras?
Sure. So as Abby said, this is my beefy baby. This is the one that I use for.
That's sexy, Morgan.
God, like 90% of my footage. There are definitely exceptions. There are some things that this doesn't do as well, and therefore I run to a different camera. But I love how people look with this. I love that I can get, so I do use the kit lens with this one. It goes from 18 to 135. I'm forgetting the word, of course.
Millimeter?
Yep.
Millimeter.
And what I love about that is that I have such a range of what I can do with the camera. I can have it so that it can see everything in the table versus I can put it a little bit further away and like super zoom in, which changes the depth of field and just how everything looks. And I love that.
My husband uses that lens and he's a landscape photographer. He loves it.
I'm a big fan. I even have a couple different prime lenses specifically because I wanted to get a little bit more of the better f-stop.
Mm-hmm.
I always have to like, am I using the word? Because I can picture the numbers.
When you have a fixed reset lens, it only has one f-stop, but it can go much lower. If you have a telephoto lens, that one that goes in and out, you lose the f-stop for the capability to zoom. That's the trade-off.
Yeah. So like, unfortunately, this can't do as much of the like beautiful blurry backgrounds, but I have found that practically I am almost always pretty darn close to my background. So even when I've played with my my prime lenses that only have one, size, it doesn't visually make a huge amount of difference. A tiny, but not enough to make up for the versatility that being able to zoom in and out constantly at a whim is. And the various point and shoot, like the Mark III, you can zoom in with these, but I love that this will just stay. Like if I want to, from the exact same point of view on a tripod, not moving it, I can zoom it to a very specific spot, don't touch it. And if I want to turn it off, do a little bit of stuff with my work, turn it back on, do a little bit, turn it back off, I can get the exact same 100% precise shot. Whereas this guy constantly wants to like a turtle kind of back in and not stay zoomed out how I want. So yeah. And I also came from more of a photo bloggy background. So I loved, and DSLRs were the big thing for that. So just kind of naturally, that's what I went to when transitioning to video.
What kind of camera? What model is it, Morgan?
Oh, it's a Canon 80D.
By the way,
And-
all of the technological stuff that we're mentioning in this they're all listed down in the description of this video. So you should, if you're like, wait, what was that thing that Morgan was talking about earlier? All there, all the links.
They are affiliate links, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Morgan, you said you had 3 cameras, right?
Yes. So the other one that I will very often use is my phone. It's great. There are certain shots that it's specifically really good for. It's really, really good for slow motion.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. I don't, but it just does such a good job. And the kind of user interface for how it lets you control exactly how much you're slowing or hyperlapse, also great for that. So
Time lapsing is badass. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm super slowing down or super speeding up because I want to show a large range of time in, 10 seconds, I'll do it with my phone just because it does it really, really, really well.
Yeah. And I mean, I use my phone as well. Morgan, what kind of phone do you have?
I have the Samsung Galaxy 9.5. No, 9 Plus.
Okay.
9 Plus.
Does that one also, like, can you change the frames per second on that one as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I was going to say, like, the new iPhones, you can actually go in and change the frames per second as well, which I don't even know if we had that like listed as like
we need to discuss this because this is
we need to discuss frames per second, but you can actually go in and adjust your frames per second on your iPhone. So that way, if you are filming with it, you can have the same frames per second as your camera, but also you can change your frames per second so that way you can do cool stuff in post, because shooting in 60 frames per second is how you can get like some of those really nice, slow, but clear shots.
Or 120, right?
Or 120.
To a certain extent with 60. So basically, I'll explain this, but basically, old film cameras used to shoot in 24 frames per second, which means the camera is basically taking a snapshot picture of what's being reflected, whatever. Every 24 times per second, it's taking that amount of pictures. And it's, played like an animation, all these frames, 24 of them go by per second. When digital stuff started to happen, digital started to record at 30 frames per second. So slightly more images per second. Nowadays, I mean, it just keeps getting more and more expanded to the point where typically now we can shoot in 60 frames per second, which gives you more images in 1 second. It makes the image sharper, which also makes it less natural to the human eye, because when you sort of go and do this in front of your face, you don't see a crisp outline of your hand. You sort of see a blur. And that's what 24 frames per second will do, because it's not taking that many snapshots of your hand. It's just, it's going to have to compensate by blurring it a bit. But the more images that the camera is capable of taking per second, the crisper that picture is going to be, which can make it look a little bit less natural, a bit less like cinematic. So that's a bit of the trade-off. But the more frames you have per second, the slower you can slow down your footage without it getting choppy. Because you've all seen sort of like amateur slow-mo, where you can't take something that, for example, you've shot on your iPhone in normal frame rate and slow it down and make a beautiful, like, running on the beach with your hair flowing, majestic sort of video. It's just going to look choppy. You have to shoot that kind of video at 120 or more frames per second to get that really buttery, smooth slow motion. So that's a conscious choice you have to make while you're actually shooting. If this is a thing that you potentially will want to slow down, like, you're laying out the fabric and it's gonna like whoosh and land on the table beautifully, or you're like,
or the hair flip.
Yeah, shoot that in at least 60 frames per second. 60 frames, you'll probably only be able to go down to about 60% slow. 120 frames per second, you can go down to like 20%.
So a really relatable
I go 50%
example
on 60, because it then takes it down to 30 frames.
Yeah, I
because then
can
it takes
too.
it down to 30. So
a really good example of what we're talking about here is either daytime television, or if anybody saw the Red 5 camera version of the Hobbit movies, they filmed it with a Red 5 camera. And if you saw that version of the movies, it looks like garbage. Like, you can see everyone's like wig hairlines and stuff in the theater. And it's because they're using too many frames per second, and it's too sharp and it looks weird. And when they pan, you don't see the nice blur of panning.
Yeah.
You see every single frame and everybody looks sharp constantly. And some people think that's really cool. It looks horrible to me. Like I was like, never again. Give me the blur. I want that like weird, like sepia tone filter.
Well,
So,
having a high frame rate when you're doing a vlog where you're panning around like a place or like a fabric store can actually be really good, because then you can actually see what's going on instead of like just a bunch of blurriness, which is
it just doesn't look natural.
Yeah.
Especially like it'll show you. That's the other thing you need to know. You look better in 24 and 60 than you do in 120. If you're not going to do a slow-mo and you're going to speed up the 120, you will see every age spot and wrinkle on your face. Just be aware. Because it's sharp. It's just really sharp, right? And it's very realistic. And sometimes that's not what you want out of your YouTube video.
Another reason why I'd recommend not necessarily always shooting with super crazy high frame rates is not only because how it looks, and if you're not going to purposefully be using that footage to slow it down, it's just they're huge files because you're literally shoving double or triple or quadruple more frames per moment. So those files are so much bigger, which, you know, yes, to some extent, file space is infinite a little bit, but just if you're transferring files constantly and uploading and exporting, it's faster if you only do what you need.
If you have minimal space on your computer to work with, like space is a premium. At this point, like, I mean, how many hard drives at one point, because like my computer was not powerful enough to hold that kind of footage. I was working entirely off of a 1 terabyte hard drive and I had to keep just deleting stuff after each video. So
I've only been doing this for a year and a half, and this channel has 4 terabyte hard drives full.
Yeah, I think this brand new MacBook Pro, it only has a terabyte, and I've been transferring stuff off of this MacBook onto a hard drive, and I think just with like program downloads and like just some raw footage I haven't transferred, it is almost gone. Yeah, like I'm already flirting with space.
We don't even have data management on our list. Yeah, but we should be talking about that too.
Well,
let's talk about let's talk about the thing that we all like to talk about a lot. Let's talk about audio.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, hold on. Let me preface this by saying we're talking about all this fancy camera equipment. I've got 3 cameras at this point. You don't need 3 cameras. I started off with 1.
Bernadette, talk to us about your cameras. I completely forgot about that. Sorry. Please tell us.
Well, I started off, this is the Canon M50 that Abby has. It's the same thing. And I started off with this one. I really like this one, but the reason why I acquired the Canon G7X was because I was going to costume college. There's no way I'm vlogging with this. Also, the internal mic on this is really bad. It's bad on most cameras, but actually the internal mic on the Canon G7X, this is the Mark II, by the way. So it's the cheaper version of what Noelle has, because I didn't necessarily have $700 for a new camera, but I could come up with $450 for the Mark II.
So I had that camera and I loved that camera so much that I broke that camera on my trip to Europe. That is the one thing about all of these cameras that do this. This hinge right here breaks. Like, because it'll also do this, so you can like look at your shot no matter what. These, it's held on by 2 screws and they come out and they break. So these cameras are not disposable, but they don't last you very long. Couple years.
So the Mark II is still really good. The one downside is that it doesn't have an external mic port, which is a huge problem. If you want to use this camera, like set it up on a tripod and step away and talk at it, the audio is going to be garbage. The audio is actually really good if you're holding it no more than arm's length away, because it's kind of, it was adopted by a lot of vloggers. I guess it's kind of supposed to be a vlogging camera. For a while, I'd even do voiceover work by just talking into the camera from behind it. Honestly, the audio is not bad on this, the internal audio. So it doesn't have an external mic. The Mark III does, but Noelle, maybe you can talk more about the patch that has to go on that. There were some internal software issues with the Mark III that you have to download a patch to fix.
The newest shipping ones have the patch already in them, so I don't think that's actually a problem. But if you find one that doesn't have the patch yet, all you do is take your SD card and you put it in your computer like you would to transfer files anyway. You download a tiny little file, and then you put it on your SD card and stick it in your camera, and then do a boop, 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 boop on the back of your camera, and biggity bam, everything's cool.
Yeah,
it's really
that's just something that you have to do if you're not doing camera research or anything and you don't know, there's a fix that has to happen. So I recently...
The Mark II is a great camera though. If you guys only have the money for the Mark II, get that and spend whatever, $27 on a lav mic.
Yeah. Yeah. A lav mic that records to an SD card so you don't have to plug it into the camera. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. Links to that all down below.
Yeah.
So because I am now a self-sustainable YouTube channel and I have the disposable ad revenue to do this kind of thing, I bought the new Sony camera that's supposed to be for the YouTubers, which is what the Sony ZV-1 that Abby was talking about earlier. I really like this camera. It's kind of like, okay, so for a while, I actually ended up using my G7X more than I was using my M50. The M50 is a great camera. They're about the same price point. I think the M50 is a little bit cheaper, but the G7X, I think, captures light beautifully. It makes your face like glow, and what it does with light, I think it shoots a little bit warmer. I'm not sure if that's a setting thing or if that's just like an internal thing, but you know,
I Canon thing.
Both on shade mode. No, they're both Canons.
Oh.
Both on shade mode, the Canon G7X shoots a little bit warmer, which I love. So I ended up using this for more of my shots, to the point where I'd actually set up my G7X to do the face shots far away and use the M50 to hook the mic up, because I couldn't plug in a mic and just put that out of frame, but don't do that. It was extra. So I really liked the G7X, and I also really like the ZV-1. The difference between the ZV-1 and the G7X is that this will shoot high frame rates. So does the M50, but it's a little bit complicated. Like, you have to go deep into the settings, and then it only shoots for a couple of, it has to cut off after a while because of the frame rate, and you can't adjust the focus while you're in high frame rate mode because, I don't know, it's picky.
It also doesn't shoot as at 1080. It only shoots 120 at 720, so it's not as clear of a picture either. That's why I've never used 120 on my M50, because I want to keep it at like 1080 HD.
The Mark III shoots 120 at 1080 also.
Ah, interesting. But yeah,
that's why I got this one.
20 frames per second, so you can get those beautiful, nice slow-mo shots. It also has, it's kind of built for people who don't really understand the manual side of cinematography, so it's really user-friendly. It's got a button on the top of it that auto sets the f-stop to be as low as possible, which means basically, in like layman's terms, it blurs the background for you. So if you're sitting in front of the camera and you're in front of a wide room with a large depth of field and you hit that button, the background will auto blur without you having to play around with f-stop and aperture.
That's amazing.
Magical. It's fantastic. There was something else I was going to say about
the product. Was it the product setting?
Oh yes, it was. The autofocus on this is literally the best. You know how sometimes you're like, hey, focus on me, please. Hi, this is my face, not that, not that, not that face back there. Hi, this is, or it'll take like 9 years to autofocus on your face. This doesn't do that. It's just like, oh, this is a face right there in like 0.1 seconds. Like, so you can do this thing where it's like, here's a thing, and it will autofocus on that in 3 seconds and then go immediately right back to your face. It's magical.
Do you know what else is in there that I didn't have a chance to play with, but I am absolutely gonna do? It has animal eye focus.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
There is an animal eye focus setting in that camera, and I was like,
Dario looks beautiful on it.
I was like, puppies.
Yeah. Okay, so the point being with all of this, we're talking about all these fancy cameras. This is probably like one of the last things you need to think about, because again, like, these cameras are only as good as your knowledge of how to use them. I was honestly shooting on the wrong ISO, which is a setting that if you don't understand, look it up. But, you know, I was shooting with an ISO of like 8,000 on this for the longest time, simply because it didn't occur to me to change that. And so, like, you'll see in a lot of my videos that you can tell when I'm using this camera because the footage is all like grainy and disgusting. The point is, and like, the sad thing is, I knew what I was doing, sort of, but not really. But, you know, like, I understood about ISO, it just like never occurred to me to change it. So
I put mine on camera. That's it. Just put it on camera and shoot. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Those are all my settings.
Even the beautiful DSLRs can look like trash if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the camera is kind of one of the least important parts. The most important thing you can do to have good video quality is audio. And fortunately, the audio is one of the cheapest things that you can start off with. Like, that is the number one first stage one upgrade that you should make is microphones.
100% agreed.
And with that, I'm gonna put this like notice out there for everyone watching. If you go to Amazon and you go to BH Photo or you go to any sort of like camera sales point right now, and you're like, ooh, that M50 looks real smexy. I think I want to get that. And then you see the video kit with a Rode mic in it, run away.
Don't buy
Do
that.
not use that mic. That mic is garbage. It's like the Video Mic Go or something, not the Pro, but
No, the
like
one that you have is good, Morgan.
yeah, the one you have is good. But there's one that comes in a kit with the Canon M50, and it is smoking hot, like sweaty dumpster fire caca. Like it is just, yes, that thing is garbage. I'm so angry at that thing.
First thing you ever said to me, Abby, ever. Literally, you came on our chat and went, that mic is garbage. And I was like, oh,
But
okay.
here's the thing is the mic is actually really good quality. I actually love the quality of this mic. So long as you film in a place with absolutely no electronic frequency whatsoever, no Wi-Fi, no computers, no cell phones, no like microwaves or like heating or like any sort of frequency, this will
light
pick
bulbs
up and create the most disgusting like pop frequency in the background.
Aliens.
Whenever I had to like film with this time, I'd have to turn off my Wi-Fi, put my phone like across the room, put my computer across the room.
You have to move to Antarctica to use that.
My neighbors didn't have their Wi-Fi on, or else this would pick up every single frequency.
I literally turned everything off. I tried the aluminum foil around the coil. It did not matter. It would just be like clicking. It's like you want to put your like just click. Like just ball of rage. It's ruined. That thing ruined so much footage.
The comment section right now is lit about you, Abby. They're like, the flames.
Like the burning Elmo Inferno is like one of my favorite gifts, and like that was me, but not in like a world domination way, but in like I'm gonna set like everything on fire. It is the worst mic of all time, and I will write a strongly worded letter to Rode about that.
All right, Morgan, go first on your audio. What do you got?
Sure. I'm
Not ready.
Backlash. So I do use the Rode Pro because I think the one you're talking about is the Rode Mic
Go.
something else.
Go. Yeah, no, it's not the Pro.
Yeah,
Which
Go
is
Pro,
annoying.
not
Pro
Go
and
Go.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I don't like when products are named that similarly.
This mic is not linked down below because we value your sanity.
We only linked things we love.
Now, to be fair,
Use.
this is just my backup mic. Like I am a firm believer in whenever possible. Oop, lost an earring. I believe that you should always have multiple sources of audio if possible. If I'm just stitching and it's the sound of my sewing machine, I don't worry about it. It's fine. Like, you know, I'm probably going to turn that audio way down anyway. Who cares? But if it's like the times where I'm talking to the camera and I hopefully want them to kind of hear what I'm saying, I try really hard to have two different types of audio going. That way, in case one of them dies a fiery death, I have a backup. So
You
this
just
is
blew my mind, Morgan.
this is my
You're
backup.
very responsible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I live on the edge.
I don't do a lot of like, I'm just going to sit and chat in front of the camera. So much of my footage is hours and hours and hours of sewing versus 20 minutes of, hey, let me tell you about my project. So when I finally get a good shoot of that 20 minutes, I want the sound to work. So yeah. But my main audio, since I mentioned this is my second one, is of course the one that I don't have on hand because I'm a terrible person. It's the same one that I think all of you have, maybe. The little lavalier. Yes, mine's white, but it's the exact same one.
I don't have that one.
It's cheap and it's awesome.
Affiliate
I
link
have a
down below,
different
Abby.
one.
Get on that.
I have a different one, so go on, Morgan.
So, but the main reason why I love this one, and so just to very quickly mention, is I tried several lav mics before where they would plug into my phone or plug into a different sound recording device. You know, I tried so many iterations with a ton of different cheap little like $10, whatever lav, just the cord. And every time something went wrong, like it wasn't plugged in all the way or it wasn't something, I love this guy because the connection point is screwed in. So you never have the problem where it unplugs itself. And that for me is one of the biggest, like, amazing points about this.
We all have this
audio
link down below.
Well, I would
And
say with
that's my spiel.
And this clips onto your belt or whatever, and you run it through your shirt and clip it on. It's great sound.
in terms of lav mics, I would recommend either getting something that plugs into your camera. I know Morgan's had problems with that. I would prefer this version, which records straight to a micro SD card.
Mm-hmm.
So you just, pop out your SD card and put this into the computer and your audio file's right there. You don't have to worry about cameras that don't have audio ports, such as the G7X Mark II, if you go that route. I would recommend steering clear of the lav mics that auto transmit to the camera, because you can lose a bit of quality through doing that.
And also, sometimes they just like cut out completely and you can't really figure out why, and it's because you used your phone or something. This guy's really great. The little SD card, you can record hours and hours and hours to this. It is so small, it fits in your pocket, if it's like on your belt, whatever. This is a great lav mic. The only thing I would say is I have had people, I stick this actually in my shirt and I attach it to my bra, because that's the advice I got. If you put it anywhere where it could possibly, if you move like I do, you really need to make a little shield for it. Otherwise you can hear your sound, like your shirt rubbing against it. I have a video out that occasionally you can hear that, or if I like pat the table, you can hear it really loud because it's echoing through my body into my mic. So you got to check yourself when you're wearing a lav mic for sure.
Yeah. So in terms of audio, it kind of depends on what you're doing, like what kinds of videos you want to make. If you're doing a lot of face to camera talking, lav mics are great. If you're doing a lot of voiceover or vlog work, you probably don't need one. Because if you're doing vlog work and you have the G7X, the audio on this, it's good. You're talking right into the camera mic. It's probably fine. If you're doing voiceover work, you will probably need a desktop USB mic. And this could probably sustain you for a good long period of time. And these can be purchased fairly inexpensively. I think this one was $75 on Amazon, and it comes with like all the weird magical clamps and pop filter stuff, so it's kind of impressive. But
Morgan and I both we're using them right now, the Blue Yetis, which are not, they're not linked, or mine isn't, because I'm stupid and I didn't think about that. But yeah, that's what I now use for my voiceovers if I have to do any.
Yeah, so again, like type of audio depends on, again, what type of video you want to do. And thankfully, I think this one's actually fairly expensive, this one, but
$99.
Microphones, you can often get them quite good quality for relatively inexpensive. I think like the Video Mic Go, it was like $40 or something, which I don't recommend, but you can get things that actually function better for similar price points. You can even get really decent mics that plug into your smartphone.
Yeah. You can get lav mics for your smartphone. If you're going to film on your iPhone, it's just like, it like literally looks exactly like this, but it's sticking out the top of your phone. It's really funny.
Yeah. And Rode has a smaller mic that people seem to really like that can also clip to your phone. So it looks like the, I've lost my word for this now. I'm sorry. Not the lav mic, but when it just shoots out like the Rode Pro. And it can clip to your iPhone. Something I wanted to make a note of, Bernadette, with you recording your sound separately, I am assuming that means that you sync up your audio with your video in post. So for beginners, that can be really tricky. So you might not want to do that until you're comfortable with your editing software.
Which we'll talk about next.
Yeah, which we'll talk about next.
It's really simple though. It's so simple.
It depends on what software you're using. Like Premiere does a really good job of it, but yeah, that's like there. I have gone on a audio like journey because of the Rode mic, but
you don't say.
I know, right? But because I've only ever worked with wireless lav mics, I hated lav mics, because like you say, they crackle, they pop, the connection's questionable, the battery dies all the time. It's not good. And I also just kind of, ugh, you know, so, but I recently have purchased one, and I purchased two because one was back ordered, and they're both under $30 from B&H Photo. And yeah, super long cords. I have an extender cord that's a Rode extender cord, which is great because that means I can plug it and walk all the way around my sewing room without me like ripping my camera off the off the tripod. Yeah. And it actually works really well. And what I like about it is that it has a deeper sound quality to it. So this is something too, this is an aesthetic thing and a personal thing, but audio, there's different preferences when it comes to audio. And I realize what I am attracted to in audio for YouTube videos is it's a more deeper tone to it, and not as like tingy and clippy and higher pitched. So,
sexy radio voice.
Yes, hello, welcome. And so the lav mic that I've been using, I like that quality to it. I also realized when I was doing unboxing that my audio was all over the place, because even though I had a boom, because it's a directional mic, I would be bent over with my head, you know, in someone's old, like 100-year-old armpit, and I could not hear myself. And I was like, Abby, you've got to get your shit together here. Like, this is not okay. Like, this isn't good. This is frustrating.
You say having been doing YouTube for 3 months.
Right.
But I don't actually know where the actual mic went. I think I cleaned and then I put it away, and now I don't know where it went. So, but I don't use it as much because I have my lav mic. But
I do recommend you all get yourself an electronics drawer, box, closet, whatever, and just keep all of your stuff together, no matter what it is or how big of a mess pile that is. Because when you can't find something and you have to search your entire house, the hate that you will give.
I can find anything so long as I don't clean. So I don't know what you're talking about. But
get a basket, kids.
But this is something that I linked in my affiliates. This one is under $40, and it's Tacstar, and it's a directional mic that goes on top of your camera in the hot shoe, just like the Rode Professional. It has a higher pitch to it. It's a little bit more like tinny sounding, a little bit like clippier. It's not as delicious bass, but it actually does a really good job. You can get a dead cat or a windscreen for it. And there actually are sound tests comparing this to like the Rode mic, the Rode Pro, from like the super duper like in-depth tech channels, which is pretty interesting as well, because they were able to like edit it to make it sound still tinier compared to the Rode, but they were like, actually, it's for the price point, it's a good choice. Because I didn't have the money, and I still don't really have that much money to spend on audio yet. So I am definitely of the whole like, find things that work that are not breaking the bank. Like, so even the mic I have right here, this is a well-reviewed one on Amazon, but it's not an expensive USB mic. As much as I want a Blue Yeti, I'm like, I'm not there yet. So
I would recommend you guys go on YouTube and watch videos using the products that you're about to buy, and don't just watch one. Watch every one that's available, because you'll see differences in them, but you'll get the general tone of whatever that thing is. Watch the reviews, watch just videos filmed with that, because it'll give you a better idea of what you're getting. What was that?
Don't just watch the sponsored ones.
Don't just watch the sponsored ones. Yeah, because in fact, ignore those. watch the other ones. And there's the million tech review sites. Everything that we're showing you, we bought because we sat there and watched a million videos on it, right? With the exception of one thing I bought off Instagram. I'm a sucker for Instagram ads.
Oh, they're so good.
All right. Do you want to talk about your audio, Bernadette, a little more in depth? Like, what is this mic here that you have in the corner?
This is a USB condenser mic that's just for voiceovers. I don't know what else to say about it.
What brand is it, though?
FIFNE, Fine. I don't. It's linked down below. Oh, yeah.
without the accessories, but yes.
Look at your kids' weird tripod.
Version.
Okay, so the one that Abby's linked is probably going to be less expensive than the $75 that I paid for this. Yes. If you want a good voiceover mic for not a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that, so how many of you have been watching a video with garbage audio. Maybe you haven't even like noticed this, but you know, sometimes you turn on a video and it's just difficult to hear and it's difficult to follow. And you find yourself picking up your phone and getting distracted or just clicking off the video. I guarantee you it's happened to you as a viewer. First of all, these are the kinds of things that you should be paying attention to. Like if you're clicking around on YouTube and you're just browsing, this is like a good tip if you want to be a YouTuber. Like, first of all, this is something we'll get into tomorrow, but what videos catch your, why did you click on that video? But once you're inside the video, watching the video, what's holding your attention? Is it because the picture's pretty? Is it because it's really nice to hear and it's nice to listen to? Why are you getting bored? Why are you clicking away? Why are you picking up your phone? Is it because your brain's not engaged? You're not able to follow? I found that personally, a lot of the time I was just not able to follow a video if I didn't have good audio. Contrary-wise, oftentimes I've clicked on a random recommendation video that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but stayed and watched the entire video because it's just like one shot of someone just sitting in front of a camera telling a story, but they're speaking in front of a mic and the audio is so good. You just sit and you listen to it. So that's my 2 cents on audio. It's
the reason that I'm hooked on the G7X partially is because people leave comments like you would not believe on my channel and send me DMs that tell me that my voice is so soothing. And I'm like, that's the audio on the G7X straight. Like I deaden out a little bit of the sound that comes from my lights or whatever in the room, like the little that comes, I get rid of that in post and that's all I do. So that's why I use the G7X, because the in-camera mic lets me, I don't like to faff with a lot of tech. Like I hate my lav, I love my lav mic, but I hate syncing audio. I hate editing. So I try to buy the product that is going to give me the end thing as quickly as possible, right? All right, so editing software, guys. What do we got? I think we all use different stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so Bernadette, what do you use? You're the crazy editor here. You edit more than any of us, I think.
To be fair, like it wasn't a conscious, like I'm gonna do all the research and figure out what program I like best. I started learning video editing like a decade ago, but I learned on Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro. Those are the programs that I knew. So when I was revisiting video editing, I was like, okay, what are my options here? I already had Adobe Creative Cloud because I was a student and, you know, I had that for Photoshop and InDesign and Lightroom, and I was on a student plan. So it was like, great, this is affordable. And that gives you all the Adobe programs, After Effects, Lightroom, which actually comes in useful now. So I picked up Premiere Pro again. And that's why I use that now. But I actually think it's, first of all, it's a really top-notch editing software. It's like Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro are like the Hollywood standard of editing software.
Yes.
So Adobe Premiere is a subscription service. You can subscribe to a single software. I would recommend, like if you have a bit of a budget, which not everyone does, but especially if you're a student, it's supremely worth it because you get the student discount and you get all of the Adobe software. So you get Photoshop, you can do the beautiful thumbnails, you can do the beautiful Instagram promotional shots, you get After Effects, so you can start getting into special effects. But again, like if editing is not your thing, don't pay for a software that you won't use. Because again, like with any equipment, it's only as good as your knowledge of how to use it. And you are never going to learn your software if you don't know what it's capable of doing. So what I recommend is if you have no background in editing, you have no idea about anything, like get on YouTube and start watching videos. Especially like if you've picked a software, start watching videos focused around that software because, I mean, there are still things I'm learning about Premiere Pro. I wouldn't know how to put into Google, you know, how to sync up audio if I didn't know that that was a possibility. How to create a masked blur. Like if I didn't know what that was, I wouldn't know to Google it. You can Google anything and you can learn anything so long as you know what the program is capable of doing. So I'm often on YouTube just going down a rabbit hole of watching Premiere Pro tutorials, just learning what the software is capable of and constantly learning how to do new things on it.
So on the other side of the Premiere bandwagon, I use Premiere Elements. Premiere Elements is $99. It is not a subscription. You just buy it. Sometimes it's $89. It's a piece of software you own forever on your machine. I get an advantage because my husband works for Adobe. This is not sponsored by Adobe. So I use it because and I use it on expert mode because it's actually the easiest of the modes. Don't use the like tutorial. It's stupid. You're going to hate that. Go to expert mode and just look up YouTube videos on how to do that. It's a very simple version of Premiere. It has everything that I need as a person who makes vlogs to make my movies. Bernadette's software is significantly more powerful, and it can do higher quality stuff, but it's not necessary, especially in the beginning, especially if you want to get used to it. And it's pretty easy to switch from Premiere Elements to Premiere Pro. So it's a good like training wheels situation. Also, I wanted to mention that I use Audacity, which is a free program. And there are plenty of tutorials on the internet that will teach you how to sync audio in Audacity. And what I do is I export just my audio track from Premiere Elements. And I get that audio track and I bring it into Audacity. I sync it with because you have your audio that's still from your camera and you sync it with the audio that you recorded from your mic. And then I sync it there, and that has mad crazy good filters. Like you can warm up your sound and make yourself radio sexy and do all that stuff. And then I import it right back into Premiere Elements and I go from there. And Audacity is super free. So that is what I use. Morgan?
I use Wondershare Filmora, which I've been using from the beginning. I've been happy with it. I did try several free programs first because that's what you do, right? Like, is there anything out there for free? And I don't know. I didn't hit upon DaVinci Resolve. I must have not tried that one, but I tried several others and they were all garbage. So I decided, fine, I want something, but I don't want to pay a subscription. So, which is why I didn't go for Bernadette's choice. I found Filmora, and it was $60 at the time. I think it's $70 now for a one-time fee, and I've been really, really happy. They keep upgrading it. They keep adding features and functionality for free. I don't have to like pay more for these new features. I'm a very big fan, and I found it very user-friendly to someone who had completely zero editing experience when I started.
I should also note that it depends on what computer you use, but if you have a Mac, iMovie is free, and iMovie is like completely 100% acceptable. Loads of big YouTubers still use iMovie. Like,
oh yeah.
If you're not into editing and you just like need a software to put clips together, iMovie is 100,000% acceptable and 100,000% free. Only if you have a Windows Movie Maker, I think, is kind of still garbage. I don't know.
It's garbage. Don't use it. Windows Movie Maker. It's fine if you want to slap some clips together. You cannot do anything useful in it. You can kind of put text over it, but you can't fade it in and out. You can't do anything. It's ew.
I got a free version. It's cool. Like we got free options that are better than Windows.
Abby,
Movie
tell us
Maker.
about your free version.
So I use DaVinci Resolve 16, and it is like Filmora, except I've never used Filmora, but just in its pay scale. So it's not a subscription service like Adobe Premiere Pro. And I have used Premiere Pro and it crashed all the time. And I spent a lot of time just yelling at it. And I found it's very gatekeepy when it comes to accessibility for someone who's trying to learn, because you can find tutorials on YouTube on how to do it. But if you're looking for like a course or anything like that, like Adobe's like, here's a paywall to get that kind of stuff. So as someone who was learning and going through that, I just found it very confusing. And going into things like you have to go into After Effects, and it all syncs up, and you have Audition. But when you're trying to do that sort of stuff, it can just feel very overwhelming. So when I was looking at editing software and I was going down that rabbit hole, I found the comparison of DaVinci Resolve. And so it's free. There is a paid version because there are some specific features in the paid version of DaVinci Resolve that it's only $200. I do not need the paid version of DaVinci Resolve. I have hit, I think, the paywall of it one time, and it wasn't something I needed. It was something where I was like, ooh, what does this button do? Like, let's see what happens. So I use the free version of it, and it is extremely powerful. It has the so you have your importing like your media. They have a cut page, which I don't think anyone actually really knows how that thing works. So it just kind of gets ignored in the corner. The editing layout is very similar to Premiere Pro. It has some minor differences. It's a little bit more visual versus relying on keystrokes and like is it keystrokes? I feel like that's not the right word. The keys.
Yeah.
The bits, the keys. Okay. Just
Shortcuts, I guess.
that thing. Well, when you're like zooming in and like you're making marks and like, so it has a little bit more easier features that way. It also has its audio editing in the software, your exportations in there, your color correction is really incredible. In fact, Blackmagic Resolve was usually used for color correction. So people would edit in like Premiere, but then like films would go and use DaVinci, like Resolve to do the color correction. So their color correction is insane. And that's all free. And you also have the special effects. So if you wanted to do like cool, like warpy things and have like text tracking, anytime I've done that, I've been able to do it in DaVinci Resolve and I just click on a different tab. And again, it's all free. The other
This video
thing
is not sponsored by DaVinci Resolve.
No, I am just very like in love with the software.
Time check is 1 hour, 25 minutes, guys.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the other thing about it too that I really liked is Blackmagic Resolve. So the company that does DaVinci, they actually have complete tutorials with like sample video footage that you can download and you can go through with their experts for each part of their software. So I downloaded the editing tutorial. I went through it. It walks you through everything. I did the sound. I did everything. And so then when I actually went into editing something, I didn't feel like I was just naked and afraid. I had like a t-shirt on.
That's great.
And yeah, so it's great. And there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube too. So
all right, let's talk about music services. We all use the same one.
Epidemic Sound.
Epidemic Sound.
Although, okay, so to be fair, Epidemic Sound is a subscription service. It's $15 a month. YouTube Audio Library, which is YouTube's own copyright-free audio library, is free. It's 100% free, and it's right in your YouTube studio in the back end of your YouTube.
My advice is to use that until you get tired of it, and until you make money on your YouTube channel.
Soft piano track. It's probably advisable not to go using questionable audio background score sources, especially like if you go on YouTube and use this in your YouTube videos. It's a huge risk because those creators can, in all legality, turn around and copyright claim your video because that is their music.
And worst of all, they can leave your video up and take all your money.
Yeah. Well, a copyright claim is worse because that counts as a strike against your channel.
Yeah, that's true. But if your video goes viral and someone jacks your YouTube money, you're bummed. So I did want to mention
something that happens.
Yeah, totally.
Someone will put a claim on a video with a sound that they're like, oh yeah, and even if it's not theirs, like there has been that issue. But YouTube is doing stuff to make it so it protects the video creators too, and people who are doing that, can get kicked off.
Just don't use shady music. Yeah. I did want to mention that Angela Clayton uses audio blocks, and because it's the one that we don't use, she doesn't use it because of that, but I'm mentioning it because it's the one we don't use. I checked out audio blocks. It looks awesome. It has a completely different kind of music on it, sort of in the similar vein, but they have different stuff on it. And if you need a looped sound a lot, audio blocks is actually a better choice than what we use. I do think Epidemic is increasingly aware of that because I keep filling out their surveys saying, dude, loops. And they keep adding them. So they are, coming up to speed. But yeah, that is a thing. Are you guys cool moving on to computer stuff? Yeah, since we all, okay. Computer stuff. What do we want to talk about our setups? I have a Microsoft Surface machine. And so everyone would be like, oh my God, can you edit on that? Absolutely, you can edit on that. I keep probably the last 3 or 4 videos that I have done on my machine, and then I move them off to a hard drive. It's not a really complicated situation for me. I just have my editing software, and I am very structured in my file setup and how I do my keeping of my stuff, but everyone has their own way of dealing with their files. I would say be organized, because you will lose, you have 1 million clips, you will lose them. So put them all in a folder at the very least. So Bernadette?
Yeah, so I mean, the majority of my channel has been built on a 2013 MacBook with like the absolute lowest settings possible, like the lowest space capability, the lowest processing power.
Would you like to hear Bernadette scream?
What?
So would you like to hear Bernadette scream? Like,
yeah,
you've been like, process.
I have just recently upgraded, but again, I mean, that was kind of to say, like, you don't need a super high powerful computer.
Yeah.
Really helps.
It does really help. When I went from my old machine to the Surface, like, rendering time is the thing.
Yeah, rendering time. This machine, I just upgraded like 2 months ago to like the newer MacBook, and I deliberately like highest processing power, please, highest CPU, like 4 terabytes of space. The space is actually the least important because you can just have a gazillion hard drives, external hard drives, and work off of that for the files. But the processing power is so useful. It speeds up the editing process. I wasn't aware of how much time I was spending editing purely because I had to like wait for this thing to render, wait for this thing to process. It's going to take 6 hours to export now because I have 5 gazillion things going on. Again, if your videos are not complex, you probably don't even need a software as complex as Adobe Premiere Pro to begin with, but you're not going to be exporting projects that are complex to the point that need like rendering before exporting.
For an anecdote, Constance just went from using an iPad. She was filming, she has hour-long videos that she was editing on an iPad to her computer, which isn't even a new computer. It's still ancient. And she's like, oh my God, this is night and day. And I'm like, guess what's going to happen if you buy a new one? It's going to get even better. Like I can't stress enough how much processing power matters. Like you can do it. There's no reason you can do it on your iPhone. There's no reason why you can't do it that way if you have a lot of time.
But this is something, again, like this is, if you're looking for like a sequence of upgrades,
don't do this one first.
The last thing, because computers are really heckin' expensive. And also like, it doesn't directly impact the quality of your video. It will just consume more of your time.
My computer was cheaper than this camera.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, because
computers are not heckin' expensive if you don't buy a MacBook, yo.
Shut up.
If you buy a PC, you can get an awesome computer for $500.
No, or if you build one. I mean, so I have the MacBook Pro, which Bernadette and I have very similar. I think you have the 64 and I have the 32 for the graphics card, because like 32 is fine. Like hers will be able to last longer, but this is not my main editing station. But my husband built me my workstation, and that was, we sourced all the parts, we bought everything, like coupons, and we were able to build that's more powerful than my MacBook with 2 screens, because dual monitors.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
But you don't need a desktop. You can do it on a laptop.
No, you can. But my point is like that thing is still cheaper than my MacBook.
Oh yeah.
It was completely customized. Like I said, the dual screens. I got my trackball mouse. I got my special like DaVinci editor's keyboard, which will go into the peripheral. But maybe it's a super powerful. Yeah, if we have time, super powerful machine, built from scratch, very inexpensive. So,
Morgan, what do you got?
I have a good old gaming PC. So that's what it was my Christmas present, I think 2016.
But that means it has an excellent graphics card.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even though it was built for playing WoW and Diablo and a bunch of other things, it can edit video pretty dang well, which is really nice. I mean, it's starting to show its age-ish at 4 years old, which is crazy. I also have dual monitors. It's so nice to be able to have your video up on one screen and be able to like look up information because you're double checking what you're saying, and stuff like that. It's fantastic. And I actually don't have a laptop. I am currently borrowing my husband's gaming laptop. Hello, everyone, from my husband's gaming laptop. So I'm like, the laptop life is weird.
Yeah.
I like my PC.
I love my Surface because I can edit anywhere, and I edit from Costume College, and I edit from France, and I edit from, and because my Surface only weighs 2 pounds, I edit on the go. I edit in my bed. I edit everywhere. It's fantastic.
Editing in bed is the best thing in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Not gonna...
Okay, so let's move on to peripherals. I have a lot of peripherals to talk about. What do you guys got?
I don't have that many.
All right, let me go through my quick vlogging tripods because that's the easiest kind of thing to talk about. I have 4 vlogging tripods. I have my regular tripod. I have this guy, which is very similar to what Morgan is holding up. That's the Manfrotto version of this. This is not made anymore. And I did link that Manfrotto version because it's the closest thing you can get to this. This one I like because it has a level on it. These are great. But let me tell you about this one. This is the Manfrotto new one. That one is called the Pixie. This is the Pixie 2. This one gives you like 12 different
Hers is so much better.
You can go almost flat. You can, each one of these things comes out a little bit more, so you can start raising it up. And this goes into 2 modes. So you can have it also like this.
It's like a transformer.
And go higher and higher. So you get like 64 different heights or whatever. This thing, as you can see, will let your camera go completely vertical. And it's great for holding your camera and being like, hey guys, how's it going? That is what I use. Now, the last one that I used in Bath, and everybody really liked it because when I was in the parade, I got shots from way up high. Good old selfie stick, kids. Put your camera on this and raise it up into the sky, and you can get aerial shots of everything that's going around you. If you want to get that kind of thing because you're out at a costume event and you want to get the whole thing, just get a selfie stick.
Oh my God,
this one's awesome
drone footage
because it
also
also
like manual drone footage.
Yeah, it's pre-drone drone. This one also like unscrews so you can tilt it too and hold it at different angles. Yeah, I like that. I do have one more thing in the tripod-y kind of zone that's pretty badass. This guy is a slider. Now, if you want to put your camera on this, it gives you a nice smushy slide. So if you want to get a slow-mo shot, Bernadette banner, where you're looking at your cutting of your fabric while you're rolling this thing slightly this way.
I don't need this in my life.
And if you're super genius, you get this Z folder, right? So you can change your height, you can change your angle. And if you put that thing on a tripod, you can pull it way out so your tripod legs aren't in the shot, and then you can shoot straight down. This is my
That
Instagram
was
purchase,
literal
guys.
porn. That was porn. How dare you not prepare us for that?
Hey, Bernadette, there's affiliate links down below.
Good to know.
All right, what do you guys got? Bernadette, you want to talk about your peripherals?
Sure. So I primarily obviously work tabletop because I do sewing videos. So I use this. I know Noelle hates these, but again,
I feel like Abby with the flames. I hate that thing.
It's just a bendy tripod. So I like this because I can get quite low with it. You know, I can get those really flat, like tabletop shots of like, here is me working, but like you're right on the table peering up at what I'm doing. So I like this for that. I also like this. I know because the bendiness can make the uneven. I don't know if that's why you hate it, but I like the bendy legs because we're going to talk about stupid rigs in a bit. So this is kind of a preemptive thing, but I will often strap my camera to myself like this and get those sewing machine shots.
What's up? I got one of those too.
Well, yeah, but I've also like rigged this up. I think there's a picture from like Costume College of last year where we've rigged one of these tripods to like hang off of the like light next to Kathy's bed so that it could get like a doorway shot or something. You can like rig these to go anywhere. They're magical. I love it.
So the reason I don't like those is because after you use them for a little while, they lose their oomph, and then your camera shot goes while you're going.
But I also I have this like more solid tabletop tripod, which goes a little bit taller than that one. it also shrinks down to go about yay high. So I really like this one just for like general, if I don't have to like go down onto the table kind of work. And then I've got a full standing tripod, but I actually rarely use that one. I use this one most probably. In other relevant peripherals to me, because I do some front of camera talking work too, is I have a teleprompter. This is the most
Here, let me advertise that for you.
If you don't know how a teleprompter works, to be fair, I didn't either until I had to go do that shoot with Glamour, and they were like, hey, do you want us to set up a teleprompter? And I was like, I don't know kind of what that is, but sure. It turns out it's a thing where this glass bit is angled and your camera lens sits in here. So when whatever's sitting down here reflects up onto the screen, which this one's built for an iPhone, there's a corresponding app. The text will scroll through from your iPhone, be reflected onto the screen, and you will be able to just read it. And it looks like you're looking right at the camera, and it's remote controlled, so you can see. I mean, you know, if you're like, wait, go back, you know, you don't have to like get up and like scroll it back. So this has been a marvel. I will disclaim that it's only useful if you know how to read aloud. That came out really dumb, but you know, some people are, I think Noelle has some stories to add to this, but personally, I write as I speak, and I'm capable of reading off of text in a very conversational manner. So it does sound a bit more presentational, but it's not like, hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm about to show you something really interesting. Please get ready to listen to this thing. You know, it doesn't sound like you're reading. If you know, maybe it takes some practice, but if you like can't be bothered with that, having a teleprompter kind of isn't worth it. But, you know, if you have a lot of text that you need to present and you can present it charismatically, this will save you so much time.
I'm really bad at reading off a teleprompter because I am such a like wing it kind of person, as you can all tell. So I sound completely different when I read off a teleprompter, and you can tell when I'm reading off a teleprompter. Like my 35 top tips video, I'm like, here's my top tip for blah, blah, blah. But I am definitely just like robotically reading this thing because I wanted to make sure I said exactly what I wrote. But I write more academically than I speak because I speak like a California weirdo. So it does change my voice. The thing about it is if you're always reading off a teleprompter, no one knows that, right? The only reason people know that it's weird is because I do vlog style and I'm like, all the time. The other thing is it will make you stop saying, and having weird pauses while you think and stuff like that. And if your natural style is to have those pauses and you don't interject them while you're reading the teleprompter, it's gonna sound not like you, right? And so mine sounds like that because I'm reading the thing I wrote. So it's just a thing where you kind of got to read it like 400 times off the teleprompter and then just cut the section that's the best out and edit that into your video, like the closest to you, right? If you're a boss like Bernadette and you can just do that, then go, yeah, it's the teleprompter is awesome.
Yeah, but to be fair, like pretty much 95% of my videos are scripted. So even the voiceover ones, I'm still reading off of a script, just not in front of the camera on a teleprompter. So I guess people are a bit more accustomed to me hearing or to hearing me read what I'm writing. I will say though, and I said this in a talk this morning, but if you have been trained to write academically, it is so worth, either if you're still in school and you have the capability to take a creative writing class, 3000% do that. If you don't, get into some journaling, get into some daily writing exercises, writing practice. Especially if you want to get into videos that are scripted, highly, highly, highly recommend. It's so important because I think they teach us how to write in the wrong way. They teach us how to write in a way that we don't actually speak. And that's, especially if you want to get into something like this, that's not useful at all.
Yeah, or it's just enjoyable to read, actually, as a academic snooze fest.
Do you have additional peripherals you want to talk about, Bernadette?
Oh, that's it.
All right, Morgan, what do you got?
Well, that's a good question. Not really. I feel like just about everything that we've wanted to talk about or like that I use regularly. I do have a ton of different little clampy screw, like not quite tripod because obviously there's not 3 legs. It is a monopod. I don't know. But for various recorders, a lot of them will have the same screw clamp. So if I'm working, I can just kind of put it just barely off screen, but kind of as close to my face as I can get. I don't have a big fancy like boom mic stand so that there's a mic right above my head. Someday, but not yet. Instead,
That
I
had
just have
never
a lot
even
of,
occurred to me.
I have a lot
How
of
do you
weird
have
clamps.
those?
Yeah,
What?
I have a boom.
And
They're
I feel
not
like
expensive. They're on Amazon.
no, they're not. But I have already got these giant umbrellas everywhere. I don't need to add more floor taking up stuff.
Yeah.
But that's
All right,
it.
Abby, what do you got?
So I can talk about the boom. I actually don't really use it now that I have the lav mic. But what I did is you can actually buy an adapter. So for like the Rode Pro or like my Tacstar, you can buy a really inexpensive adapter to hook it onto the boom. And then what I would actually try to do is just have that just near my face. And there's a learning curve there too. Like I sometimes get the angle wrong because it's a single directional mic. It's not necessarily omnidirectional. And so there is a learning curve there, and trying to get it so it's not in the shot, but it's close enough to my face to pick up on my audio. It has its pluses and its minuses. But right now it's actually just kind of in my way in my actual sewing space. But you can explore that option if you want. It doesn't have a super long reach because I just bought the Amazon Basics one. So it's not one that I can have like back where my camera is on the other side of my sewing table and have it come like across and like right here. I have to put it off to the side and then it's kind of like, the other thing we talked about ND filters, I really highly recommend those as like a peripheral thing, but multiple batteries for your cameras.
Yes.
Multiple chargers.
And multiple chargers, especially if you get a Canon M50 or a Sony ZV-1. You need
Or
multiple
this.
batteries. Okay, that one too. You need multiple batteries. Buy as many
Just
as
buy
you can
3 or
afford.
4.
Yeah, you don't have to even buy the brand name ones. You can buy the off-brand ones. They are totally fine. I have like 5 batteries for my Canon M50.
Also, you will lose them.
Yeah, it makes it so much nicer. But also, so this is dual parter. You can get a remote for your cameras. They're really inexpensive. This makes it a lot easier to shoot and film when you have a distance thing, because then you're not like walking back and you're like, oh, hit the button, walk back over, did I hit, oh son of a, walk back over, hit the button again. So just getting a little remote. Also, all of our cameras are smart and they communicate with your phones. So you can download apps like the Canon app, or Sony has an app as well, where your iPhone or your iPad, where is my phone? Here it is. It actually can
Be the remote.
it can be the remote and the viewfinder.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to set up a shot but like you're too far away and you're like me and you need glasses to see in the distance, like you can actually completely frame the shot on your phone. And you can hit record on your phone. You can also change the settings, aperture, ISO, stuff like that. So if you don't even want to invest in like one of these, just get to know that free app that's with your camera. And it is, when I did my medieval and I was doing the risky business, that's how I was able to make sure that the shot was framed up the way I wanted it to. And also like the whole thing I did with like Bernadette and Morgan cutting in, I framed all of that using my phone because it was just so much easier than me getting back up off the couch, like, okay, man, like, no, I can just look on my phone. So that is awesome. So that's awesome.
I film on my phone. Get one of these for your phone. I take my thumbnails on my phone. Get one of these for your phone. Just do the thing. You need this.
Well, they come like free with every selfie stick or like iPhone, like smartphone tripod. Like
you get this and the thing for like $10. Do the thing. You're going to need that.
I actually have a remote, by the way, so you don't need it, but I can see how it would make life easier.
I need it.
But you do have a smartphone. So see, like.
Yeah, I do. I may do the thing and use the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are at 1 hour and 50 minutes. Let's talk about thumbnails and then take some questions while you show the badge code. All right, thumbnails.
This is the most important thing.
It is the most important thing.
Marketing, like how far are we going into this?
I don't care how much do you care if we go over 2 hours? Like if you don't care, then just go off.
Oh, I don't care as long as everyone else doesn't care.
I'm cool.
Well, I thought this was just going to be us talking about like what photo editing software we use basically, and not going into like the marketing and like thought process behind the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's next.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is editing thumbnails. I see.
Yeah.
I take my thumbnails with either my camera or more likely my phone. I have a thing where I've taken a picture of the background, like just my room, and then I'll take a bunch of funny pictures of me, and then I'll cut me out and stick it on that background so that I don't have to worry about what the background is that day.
Oh, that's clever.
And I can make me bigger or smaller without worrying about having to like cover up the hole of me cutting out me bigger or smaller. Or I do it on my phone and then I just edit it in Photoshop.
Nice.
Abby?
So when I remember to take a photo for my thumbnail and I'm not scrounging through my my video looking for a shot that I'm not doing on, I will edit I will sometimes edit my photos depending on the color and like what I'm doing with them on Luminar, which is a kind of like another like Filmora option. So again, I didn't want to pay for a subscription, even though like Lightroom and Photoshop are great. I just was like, I just want to pay like a flat fee and get it. And so I have Luminar, which is I think like $70, and it's a really lovely, easy to use like editing software that I can also do really weird stuff in very easily, which is super fun. And so I'll touch up the photo, like, you know, smooth out my skin, bring focus on the eyes, do all that kind of stuff. And then I can export that. And then I make my thumbnails on Canva. Canva can be free. I do pay for that subscription and I love it. And
Canva's amazing.
Canva's so amazing. And they actually just released text effects, which was one of my biggest gripes with Canva, was that you couldn't do a stroke around text, and sometimes it was hard to make the text really pop. And now they have text effects, which have delicious options and like sliding bar scales to really help your text pop. And they already have a YouTube thumbnail like size preset, and I can just pop that in, and you can do background removal, you can change color, you can blur stuff, you could have different graphics come in, tons of font options, and then you can export it as a lovely PNG file and upload it to YouTube, and it is jazzy. It's graphic designs for people who are terrible at graphic design.
Morgan, thumbnails?
So hardware wise, I'm kind of 50-50 between specifically trying to make sure I take a shot, especially if I actually know what I have in mind, which is only about half the time. So the other half of the time, I just grab a clip from the video and call it good.
I do that too.
Yeah, I figured out. But I use a program or a kind of a program because it's also software, a browser-based like Canva. I use PicMonkey, which as far as I can tell is virtually identical. You know, there's free version where you have less available to you, but there's also a paid version where you have more. I've been paid on that for forever, so I have like the you know, you got in on it when it was really cheap price, and it's like my lifetime price, which is fantastic. But I also like that a lot of these different services improve over time. So something that might not be available at one point, especially once it starts becoming popular, like in thumbnail, you know, kind of universe, it gets added before long. So I do have Photoshop and I'll use it when I have to.
Bernadette?
But I avoid it when possible. Oh, I do like Adobe Bridge though. I have that for just kind of like rudimentary photo.
Is it Bridge and management software?
Am I remembering the name wrong? It definitely begins with B. I'm a terrible person.
It uses Bridge for sure. Oh, I did want to mention Photoshop has an Elements version also, which you can buy with Premiere Elements, and it's much cheaper. And then it's the same thing as Photoshop, just all the buttons are in a different place. It's really ridiculous if you are used to Photoshop like me, because it's annoying. But if you're not used to Photoshop, get Elements.
But anyways, I use it for the color correcting. That's the main thing that it has a thing it can do it's really good and that can do really nuanced things with color and how much light I'm lightening the shadows versus the highlights versus the whatever. So that is my preferred light editing software.
Bernadette, what do you do your thumbnails with?
So when I remember to do a thumbnail, because
don't ever
most
remember.
times, let's be real, most times I forget. It is generally good practice to remember to sort of like design the thumbnail in your head before, before you start shooting the video really, or as you're shooting the video, because the thumbnail, as we'll get into more tomorrow, is like step one for marketing your video. Like if you want a viral video, the thumbnail is like the first step to getting there. But anyway, when I remember to actually take a thumbnail, there's like a reel on my camera of like 30 seconds at the end of me just going, if my face is in it.
These are all my
Just like doing a
thumbnails.
bunch of dumb stuff on camera, because I will screenshot that and then put that into Photoshop. I use Photoshop because, again, I do Adobe Creative Cloud. It's free, but like not free. Like it's part of the package, I should say. So that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'll just, because obviously not all of my videos are me talking to the camera, so it's not like my face in it, but I'll just take that end reel of B-roll that I have of like modeling the gown, and I'll just like screenshot stuff. I may cut up the dress because humans are annoyingly vertical, whereas thumbnails are horizontal, so you're going to need like 3 different versions of the dress. But anyway, I would say, again, like if you are looking for design tips for your thumbnails, have a look at your YouTube homepage, see because there are trends with thumbnails. And whereas I'm all for nonconformity and I'm all for bucking trends, there are certain psychological aspects of going with the trend in a marketing sense, because, people start to get it, like adapt to seeing certain things. So certain visual things mean certain things. And it's like, oh, wow, viral videos all tend to have this, they tend to be really bright, really contrasty. So like if you see some of my thumbnails like as an image, you're like, that's disgusting. It's like way over contrasty. But when it's this big in like a YouTube thumbnail on your homepage, it needs to be able to capture your attention.
Look at your thumbnail in your program at the size it's going to be on someone's phone, not on their computer, on their phone.
Like Canva, 10%.
Yeah.
Can you read it? Can you see it?
Contrast, saturation, pay attention to those things. Make sure that the coloring in your video isn't too dark, because if it's just dark and it's gray and it's not well lit,
no one's going to click on that.
You're going to scroll past. And the last thing is text. The text must be readable.
Yes.
Get those serif fonts out. Nobody cares. They're distracting.
Halo that.
Clear fonts, no cursive. Until they come up with an elegant cursive that's like
legible,
readable. As much as I love, I love my cursive, not for a thumbnail if you want people to click on it.
And put a stroke on it and a halo behind it so that it stands out. Because again, it's this big, like you need to be able to see it. And if you got this mess behind you like I do, you can't read text. Like that's not a thing. You got to make sure it's on a background that makes it pop.
Yeah. If you can't
Another
read the
thing,
text, it just looks messy and it's pointless. Get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing is also where the text is located. Like when you're on like YouTube homepage, you can see the entire thumbnail, right? So you can have like the words take up more space. But if you're looking at something on the suggested list, like when you're watching a video, and right now, if you were to look over to your right, you would see videos that are coming up next. YouTube puts little boxes of like, carp there. And so it will blur and you won't be able to see what's on that side of the thumbnail. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is you have to think about how YouTube interacts with your thumbnail. It doesn't matter if you think it's cute. Like,
I think I'm over here on YouTube, but YouTube takes up about this much of this corner with a timestamp. Don't put important writing here. Whenever I'm doing
floor
thumbnail,
here.
This is completely clear of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing here.
Yeah.
Important stuff is here and here.
Yeah. All right. Let's take some questions. There's some in there for us. Well, Bernadette, do you want to show the badge code?
Oh, yeah.
I need my badge code, Bernadette. Jeez.
Somebody screen grab this for me. All right. So I'm looking at some questions. One of them is, how do you take overhead shots while you're sewing so people can see your hands?
Wait, we should note
I
that-
can't show the thing that I'm going to show because we're showing the badge code.
Wait, we did break the badge site last time doing this, so if it's
Yeah.
not working, it's not your fault. Try again in a couple of minutes. Maybe screenshot this, write down the badge code. It will come back, I promise.
Yeah. All right. So
I don't think it's working.
I attach that slider thing that I have sometimes to my tripod, and then use the Z foldy thing to make my camera go straight up and down without showing the tripod legs. I also have that giant bendy thing that I showed, which when we're done showing the badge code, I'll show it again. You can look this up on Amazon. It is like bendable phone holder or something like that. And yes, this will hold a G7X solidly, so you don't have to worry about it. The only thing that sucks about it is when you have a camera in here, you cannot see the shot at all because it's the thing that's holding it is covering this thing. The thing that is holding the thing is covering the screen, so you can't see it. So you gotta like kind of line it up. But I just clamp this onto my table and then have it over my work, and then you can see my hands. But this is the slidey thing again. You can attach this part to your tripod, slide it all the way over, have the Z bendy thing go so that your camera faces down, record right over that. You guys, how do you guys do hand shots?
So that's what I was just reaching around for. So I have two different tripods. One I like to use for not looking straight down. This one, however, it really nicely like turns, but it only works well if I'm only kind of filming right here.
Yeah.
Because the second you want to be filming like a huge expanse, then the legs are going to get in the shot. So I actually have an exciting new thing for that I've started using that I'm super excited to show you guys. It's very exciting. One second.
I'm excited. Are you guys excited?
I'm hyped.
Morgan said it was going to be exciting.
Killing me.
Let's see.
The sun.
Oh my God.
What is that?
What have you
The
done?
thingy.
What is it?
That
Hold on, I actually have one too.
What is it? That's the point of the thing, not to know.
it's a little tripod clampy bit. So kind of like this clampy bit, right? Where it has a screw on it to hook into a camera, and I've bolted it to my ceiling.
Wow, you're a hardcore YouTuber. Oh, you're about to like possibly bust down your roof though, so I guess it doesn't matter.
I mean, probably not this roof.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
I haven't installed mine.
You guys are hardcore. Yeah, I'm not doing that to my roof. Nuh-uh. Also, there's a light centered over my table, so I couldn't do it.
Wait, I should retrieve this. But it was a stack of books and another stack of books, and a broomstick and a yardstick laid across the stack of books.
Oh yeah, that
And
was
the
epic.
embroidery frame sat between, the sticks support the embroidery frame, and the lens of my camera just goes through the embroidery hoop and just sits like that and films like that.
That's genius.
That's amazing, and that also qualifies for the weirdest film setup like of all time. So
Oh yeah.
you win. There's no way.
Did you put a picture of that on Instagram?
I put it on my stories once, yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. All right. A next question that I see is, what is the product a piece of equipment that you bought you did buy that you regretted the most? I can talk today. Wow. This is why I don't read teleprompters, people.
Other than the Rode mic goal.
Other than the Gorilla Pod. I hate the Gorilla Pod. I bought one of those and like literally the second day I tried to use it, it was in some weird thing and my G7X was like,
I bought the Switch Pod, which was a startup, and it's nice.
What's a Switch Pod?
But I couldn't find it. I don't know where I put it.
No, but describe it.
I know. Okay, so it's like a handheld tripod, and it's supposed to be for like vlogging, and it's a lightweight metal, but it's not like aluminum. It's sturdier than that, and it's magnetized, so you can quickly have it pop out, so it becomes a little like tabletop tripod. But then you have it, and it has gripping points to make it so you can hold it to do like vlogging stuff with. But because it's solid metal, one, it can get actually pretty heavy for like pandemic out of shape Abby, but also it's just not as user for like it doesn't go down low, you know, it's like this is where it goes. And they finally released an adapter that has the ball so I can at least move that around. But it's something that I bought. It was a small company, good idea. Peter McKinnon, I was like, that seems cool. Buy, like when I had like expendable income. And yeah, I don't.
Be wary of Instagram ads and Kickstarters, folks. Morgan,
I mean, I love a
weirdest?
good Kickstarter. And
Yeah.
Peter McKinnon was like, this is really cool. I'm like, well, if Peter McKinnon likes it, like,
Right.
obviously. It's like, well, no, it doesn't.
I don't
work
even
for
know
me.
who that is. What do you got, Morgan?
We should show you Peter after this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so you said weirdest or one I regret the most?
One that you regret the most.
Okay. The one I regret the most was, I think it was also like a Kickstarter or some sort of similar. It's basically a fancy selfie stick, essentially, right? Because it was one end attaches to the top of your tripod. It has, it can screw into a tripod, and then a long skinny bit, with the idea being that you could do really great overhead table shots because your tripod can be over here and that long stick extended to the middle of your table. Problem is, the damn thing was so heavy once you leverage the weight with a camera at the end that you might as well use like a boom stick or something so that you can weight the end. But this wasn't built with that in mind, so it was too top heavy to like be useful. So
Yeah.
basically complete waste of money.
Bernadette, you got anything you really regret?
Well, the first camera I ever bought was the Canon Rebel T6, I believe. I did not do my proper research before buying that. Well, I also didn't really know what I was looking for because the three things that I realized that I needed after buying that camera that it didn't have, it did not have a flip screen. So I was not able to check my shot while I was in front of it. And if I was trying to focus on myself, that was pointless because I couldn't see the subject while I was behind the camera. It also didn't have autofocus.
Oh no.
Possible. Yeah, so it was a nightmare to work with, but it also didn't have an external mic. So it was like three things that like made my filming job really difficult. I ended up, because I have since upgraded cameras 3 times now, or 4, whatever. I have 3 cameras now because I'm not reselling them. They're all really good cameras that I actually still use. Sometimes I'll use 2 cameras or now 3 cameras at once to get different angles and maximize my time in shooting. That one I sold because I was like, I will never use this.
You're like, F this.
Yeah.
We have experience with this, the 3 of us that have G7X. What do you do if you have a camera that only shoots for 10 minutes? The G7X Mark II only shoots for 15, yeah? I remember that.
I get 29 out of it.
Oh,
So-
okay. It's actually not usually a minute thing. It's usually a file size thing. Go ahead, Morgan.
So I actually do have experience with that because for the first like 2 years of my YouTube, I'm on, I think, year 3 now. Year 3 is where I started updating all of my stuff. For the first 2 years, I used a Nikon 3100, which only shoots for 10 minutes because it's not meant to be for videos. It's meant to be for pictures. It did not do any form of autofocusing, like on faces and stuff. No. Like, so I had to, and there was no flippy monitor on it. So my first 2 years of filming was done, because I also see a lot of questions asking like, well, how do you do it if you don't have a flippy screen? Well, what you do, friends, is you put it on a tripod over here, you put it on video, you run over here, check if it looks good and you're in frame and everything looks right. You go back over here, you check your little footage, you
Get your husband to stand there.
You do that 5 times until you finally figured out, okay, you literally put like an X on the floor so you know where to stand. And you have to do that every single time you want to like be in frame. Like, it was the worst. I did it because that's what I had. And I would say if you can do just one thing with a camera, the one thing that would truly make the biggest difference is having a screen so that you can check that you're in frame. Like,
Yeah,
that was
screen.
the most mind-blowing game changer.
On the big cameras, you can hook it to a monitor, a TV screen. You can put that off, and then you can see yourself in the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can get little hot shoe monitors too for your if you have a big camera.
Yeah.
I couldn't get more than 15 minutes out of my G7X. It's probably my shooting settings, because I was shooting bigger files, because on the G7X Mark II, I think it's a file size thing. This guy does 30 minutes. But how I handled that was I just didn't shoot videos that were longer than 15 minutes.
Or you just, so you're prepared that, if you're shooting a long to face to camera video, you just, okay,
break it up.
Sometimes the camera does not let you know when it stops shooting. I think my first camera didn't, and it was really frustrating. The G7X will beep. It'll say,
that's
hey,
the best thing about this is it like has an on-screen big flashing thing. The Mark III says, yo, you're done.
Yeah. This is like, okay, get up, reset. And it's kind of no big deal.
It's really not that big of a deal.
They, something with that, just in case people don't know, until very, like, literally Sony's newest camera that's coming out, there was a tax thing that has to do with recording time on cameras. And so companies like Canon and Sony and Nikon, they purposefully limit the amount of video recording time in consumer cameras because they were able to say they were mostly for photography, and thus there was like a tax benefit for the company. Wow. So the 30-minute thing is a standard thing regardless, unless you're doing an actual video camera, like, and you're going that route. The cameras are all going to have that 30-minute limit, except for like the newest of new Sony cameras that literally just started their mass, like the embargo has been lifted and now all of the tech companies are talking about it because apparently it is, well, Canon and Sony are like duking it out for YouTuber right now. And so like that one, because that law changed like apparently a year or two ago, but the companies just never really bothered to like update it. So now Sony has changed it with that consumer level camera to have that kind of quality. But that camera is also like $3,500. So no, thank you. Hard pass.
All right. So what is the hardest technical aspect of your videos for you guys to learn?
Editing, audio editing.
Okay.
Maybe also editing, just because there's so much to learn. There's not very much that you have to learn to get started, I should say. Like the learning curve is really steep. You edit one video, you've learned so much. You've edited 2 videos, you've learned an astronomical amount about editing videos.
But it is also never ending. Like it goes forever.
Hey, you want to get into special effects? Here's an entirely new software for you to learn.
Yeah. Morgan?
I mean, I think that the hardest thing for me at first was trying to figure out how to show what I want to show. It's weird to think about, because now I'm used to it. Now I kind of know, I want to take a bunch of like little shots of this little piece of sewing. It only needs to be like 10 seconds and I can move on. And we'll talk a bit more about like process in the next video that we're doing tomorrow. But that like trying to understand how I wanted to film so that I had a good end product, like, and a story that made sense, so to speak, for a tutorial, was tricky. So that was hard for me to kind of figure out.
Mine is something that I'm still learning, and I'm always learning, and it's possibly controversial in this group, but it's YouTube analytics. Because the analytics of your video will tell you everything that's wrong with your video if you know how to read your analytics. And it will tell you everything you've done right about your video if you know how to read your analytics. Google Analytics goes deep, 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 really deep. And it's scary deep. There's like all this really shallow stuff that you can just glance at on your phone real quick. But if you go into your computer, which you can't do on your phone, you go in your computer and you dig, you can tell every nuance. You can see exactly where you did the thing that like 60% of your audience dropped out of your video, right? So that's really valuable information if you're a YouTuber and you want to keep people, especially me, like I film hour-long videos, right? Like, so the people who are there with me mostly are just the sweetest people ever. But I want to know where I'm losing people to figure out what I'm doing that's like making them disinterested in this video, right? And maybe it's just not the kind of video for them, and that's fine. So there's an emotional aspect that you have to learn too, and that's not a technical thing, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. So yeah, Google Analytics is actually, especially if you want to deep dive, like the shallow stuff, super easy. It's actually really easy to read. But if you want to know, it's hard. It's actually difficult to figure out what's going on. You have to, it's easy to figure out what's going on when you know how to read it, right? But learning how to read it is actually pretty difficult. And it's one of the things that there's very few videos on YouTube that teach you how to go real deep, because most of the videos that people make are super shallow. They don't dive super deep.
Well, I think because a lot of people also don't understand it, and there isn't really like a set, okay, because it's constantly changing too. The algorithm is a machine. So even the people at YouTube we'll get into this more tomorrow, but even the people at YouTube don't know specifically, this is what the algorithm is looking for, because it's been trained to learn and it's learned. Yeah. It's gone somewhere else. So it's just, I want to say, I know this sounds really like I don't want to say off-putting, but it makes it sound like, you know, YouTube is this impossible thing. There's all this tech you have to learn, all the marketing that we're going to get into tomorrow, all the, you know, how to actually like make good content, which we'll also get into tomorrow, how to figure out the analytics. There's so much to learn. If someone, like, we didn't know any of this going into it, but the people who end up going far in YouTube are the people who are constantly making an effort to learn.
Yeah. And watching other YouTube videos.
Yeah. I think a way to kind of not spin it, but not spin it, is you've got to give yourself grace when you launch a YouTube channel. As a YouTuber, you have got to give yourself grace, because you are doing the job. You, single person, you are doing the job of several tens, hundreds of professionals to script write, to film, audio design, lighting design, set design, camera design. You know, you are then also the talent. Then you go into editing, like, then, okay, editing, you have like the people who just do the basic editing. Then you have audio engineers. Then you have special effects people. Then you still have the director who's somehow overseeing all of this.
Look, okay, so watch the credits on like a Hollywood feature film. Just watch them on the right.
That's you.
Every single one of them is your job as a YouTuber.
Yes. So even if you're like, oh my God, like, I have videos where I know my thumbnail was garbage and that's why the video doesn't do well. And I'm like, oh, well.
You just have to move on. You
just move on. Like, you don't worry about it. Go to the next one.
You've got to give yourself grace. You, like, even one mediocre YouTube video is an incredible feat. And you've done the job of so many people.
Yeah. My thing about YouTube is you get what you give to YouTube. And you have to think of this, it can be not a job, it can be just a hobby, but then treat it like a hobby for yourself and let it be a hobby and just fun, and don't worry about it. But you get what you put into it. And if you put 40 hours a week into it, or 80, or whatever Bernadette puts into it, you have a job. And if you film yourself sewing and just like hanging out with people in the comments, you have my channel. And they're both are super valid and super, they can be both very successful in completely different ways. And it's just really what you want. Do I want to spend 40 hours a week digging into my analytics to figure out where I lost somebody? No, I don't. So, but maybe Bernadette does, right? And because that's her job.
But you, no matter how big your channel is, you are bringing value to whoever is on your subscription list. And like, think about them as actual human beings. If you have 10 subscribers, that is 10 human beings who are getting value out of your content.
Yeah.
So like, it's really easy to get caught up in analytics as numbers and gamifying it of like, I have to reach 100K. I have to reach this level. Like, I'm not a real YouTuber until, no, that's all garbage. You're only here, first of all, because you have something to share, you have a passion, and you want to be here. You have a skill, you have stuff that you want to share with the world. And there are people who are getting benefit from what you're doing, which is what drives you.
You put a video on YouTube, you're a YouTuber. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You can call yourself a YouTuber for the rest of your life, put it on your CV, it's fine. And it doesn't matter how many people watch that. If one person watches it, you're all good. You've affected one other person's life, right? I mean, it's not that I take my YouTube channel really seriously, but I'm definitely the most relaxed about it of probably everybody in our group. But I get so many messages all the time of people telling me like, oh my God, it's so great because you're like a friend in the sewing room, right? And that that fulfills my heart like you would not believe. Like every message that I get that's like that, just like I am like the Grinch. My heart gets bigger. I don't know. I get verklempt. I text message my friends telling them how amazing my audience is. It doesn't matter how big or small your channel is. It really doesn't. If you want to make a lot of money on YouTube, you got to do a lot of work though, like a lot of work. People don't take this seriously. They think they can crank out some YouTube content and get a viral video and bam, you're
living in a mansion and getting 6 figures a year. It doesn't work like that. We'll get into all that tomorrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
viral
like
video, Bernadette and I go through it.
What happened? But even one viral video does not mean you quit your job. Like that is, maybe it does for some of us, but
I didn't quit my job.
So, but you really get what you get out of it. And if you want it to be your job, you have to treat it like a job, and you don't just treat it like a job, you treat it like a startup. You push everything you have into it. And if you don't want to do that, that's totally cool. Like you can just have fun on YouTube and be a CosTuber or whatever kind of tuber you are, right? Like you don't need to have that be part of your life. And because I'm the only one here who kind of doesn't have it as my job, well, Morgan, but you're ish.
Yeah, we're going really heavy into
Morgan,
tomorrow stuff too.
So I am super chill about it because of that, right? Like there's an advantage to it too. So don't go into YouTube just thinking I'm going to make millions of dollars. Like go into it because you love it and you enjoy it and it's your passion and you want to talk to all those people and you want to share yourself with them. Don't think about the money.
Also,
Because
people
if you think about the money, you're not going to do well.
Yeah, people can tell when you're in this for the money and when you're in this for yourself and when you're in this for the views and the attention. And no one cares because, okay, let's be real for a second. Admit this. We are all supremely selfish creatures.
Oh yeah.
Especially when we're on YouTube trying to relax at the end of our day. This is my time. If someone's on YouTube saying, hey, what's up, you guys? Subscribe to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. Like, smash like, and it's all about me. I can't wait to show you all about like what I'm doing today and all about like me. Like, no, someone like, please look after me for a second. You want to go to those videos that are like, let me show you something. Let me invite you on this adventure. Let's do something for you. And like, as the content creator, I got into this. First of all, I'm not in that mode when I'm creating content. I'm not in the mode where I'm like sitting in bed, like someone please entertain me right now. I'm in the mode of like, I'm at work right now. Yeah. It's my time to serve my community because that's what we do when we go to work. You know, you go out and you have a job at a bank, you're serving people in that respect. You work in a restaurant, you're quite literally serving people. But you know, like this is my job. So I'm going into this with, right, how am I going to serve people the content that, first of all, I'm so passionate about? Like I've spent time like researching this thing, learning about this thing, making this thing. I can't wait to share it with people. I want people to learn from it and to get joy and entertainment out of it. And that's, I think, what makes a good channel. We're going to get into all of this tomorrow.
Guys, spoilers.
Yeah. Well, it's good because we don't have as much time tomorrow. So we might as well, but this is a good place to like wrap it up. Morgan, do you have anything to add to this since we've all gone off?
I mean, if I can also go ahead and interject something that's kind of more of a tomorrow conversation, I'm going to do it. Which is one of the biggest things that I've seen people say when it comes to wanting to start their own channel is like, oh, well, but I don't know how I want my channel to be, or I want to talk about how to make this thing or this thing or this thing, but there's already videos on how to make those 30 things. That doesn't matter. And the reason I want to say how much it doesn't matter is because every single time I ever want to know how to do a thing myself personally, I go to YouTube, go look up videos, and I will watch the first 5, 6, 7, 8 videos, depending on however many it takes for either the subject matter to click, because everyone explains differently, or sometimes the way someone's explaining it in the top most views video isn't my style. So I go to the next one and the next one. And that's good, right? Everybody will learn how to do the thing in a different way. So
when I was making those welt pockets, I watched 37 YouTube videos on how to make welt pockets. And then Nikki made me one. And that was the one that worked for me.
How many of those did you subscribe to?
6.
Why did you subscribe to them?
Because they explained it well and I liked their voice.
Because there's a character, because there's a human behind it, and that's what we'll get into tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can make
There's
tutorials,
also
but
marketing
nobody's
stuff.
going to stick around
This too.
unless people can immediately get a sense of your story.
Yeah. All right. So do we feel good about this video here that we've just made? Does everybody as a YouTuber feel confident?
I think so.
Someone was asking how long this will stay up, Bernadette.
Sunday, the 9th of August. Sadly, I cannot leave it up longer than that, but I hope that you will be able to watch this before then, rewatch it potentially if you need to take tons of notes. But yes, Sunday, the 9th of August.
And Bernadette has made you a million notes down below because she is queen of description. Yeah. So
I should just like in closing, I just want to reiterate because we talked about a lot of really like intense and honestly expensive things of like how to make a YouTube video. Again, I just want to reiterate, like, you do not have to start with all of this stuff. In fact, you should not wait until you have all the fancy toys to start. That will be like probably the worst thing that you can do. Like you need to start.
Because you don't even know if you like this yet.
Right. You need to start just making videos first. There is a correlation between the upgrades and the improvement, like the performance improvement of your channel. But also, nobody's going to subscribe to your channel if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, like it's kind of better to get a little bit of practice with your equipment while you're trying to figure out what your channel is about, what your style is, how you're presenting yourself, because you really kind of don't want to build a following when you don't really know what your content is. Because 6 months later, when you finally figure out this is my niche, everyone's subscribed for something else. Now you have no engagement. So start. You just need to start.
Just do the thing, kids. Just do the thing.
Enjoy the process of taking cake and pie and throwing it up against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like enjoy that experiment. Because that's something that I really wasn't given, which again is like something we can discuss tomorrow. But the pressure of being a new YouTuber who had a video go viral and all of that, like I actually really resent the fact that I wasn't given time to throw stuff up against the wall and get weird and fail and just have crap videos like down there. You know, I actually am sad that I don't get to have that freedom of creativity.
The 600 people watched your video and not 5,000 or 25,000 or 350,000 people watching your video, that time is precious. It absolutely is. Also, what I would recommend is if you do start your channel and you film it on your phone and you do it and you put it up, leave it up. It's cool. And then go back in 6 months or a year and watch that video again. And then watch your most recent video and it will blow your mind. My first video on this channel is absolute garbage because I was just cleaning out my fabric stash and I'm like showing shots of my fabric all over the floor and stuff. And it is a giant dumpster fire. And I love that video and it's going to stay up forever because it's garbage and it shows how much better my videos are now.
Yeah. Every single time that you shoot a video, like you learn so much.
And it should be your goal every video to be better than the last and to learn stuff. Like don't do this stuff for being a YouTuber. Do it because you want to learn your craft. It's like sewing, right? Like you don't make you make a dress because it's a pretty dress, but you're also trying to learn something every time you make something, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with
that's
YouTube.
The other thing, like this is kind of the other secret to being a YouTuber is that, especially if you are a YouTuber as another hobbyist, like we're all costumers, but YouTubers. Like we're not just costumers. The thing that nobody talks about within costuming, and I think the reason why a lot of within the costuming community, people are like, how come they get popular? You know, how come they're on YouTube getting pop? Well, it's not just the hobby of costuming. Video production is a whole other skill set. It's a whole other hobby. It's a whole other time-consuming aspect of your day. If you don't love it, if you don't want to adopt this as a secondary or even not even secondary, but parallel hobby and parallel use of your free time, there's honestly probably no reason for you to get on YouTube. Because if you're just jumping on a trend or you're just doing this for the money or the following, you're going to hate half of how you spend your time. And that's a really terrible way to live your life.
Frequently, I will spend more time filming or editing than sewing.
Yeah, do it because you love it. And if you just love to sew, please just save yourself the effort and enjoy your sewing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a lot less time to sew.
Get yourself an Instagram account because those are much easier to manage.
Yeah.
All right. Are we good?
I think we're good. We could just keep going on forever, but we
could.
Yeah.
I mean, the comment section, the chat stopped. I think it stops at like 2 hours or something. So I can't see any more comments anyway.
Oh, interesting. I still can't.
Well,
oh, interesting. Okay.
Can I just say?
Noelle and I also have another live cast like in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So we should.
Okay.
What's up, Morgan?
I just wanted to say, I love how this whole chat, as one person's talking, the other three of us are like, yeah.
Or I'm like, all right. Thank you guys for coming. It was really great to see you all.
All right, friends. All right, we'll see you at this time tomorrow afternoon. We will be resuming with part 2 of this series in which we will be talking about marketing videos. We will be talking about that elusive algorithm. There's no such thing as an algorithm punishing your video. I will tell you that right now. And we will go into all of that tomorrow. We will go into a bit of the more like nebulous, like how to actually make good content, how to tell a story, how to have character. Now that we know how to practically shoot a video that can potentially look good, let's figure out what our content is and how to sell it. So,
and we will talk about money.
We will talk
I personally will tell you how much money I make on YouTube. I don't know about them. I can't speak for them, but I will.
I'll have to think about it, but
yeah,
we may talk some numbers tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you back this same time, not this time, but 2 hours previously, 4 o'clock Eastern time, all that other time zone garbage. See you tomorrow. Have a good night, friends.
Bye.
Bye.